Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto steals the forbidden scroll and finds a scroll addressed to him inside part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. He was tired and sweaty, but he had done it. He had stolen the forbidden scroll of seals from the Hokage Tower and had learned one of the techniques in it like his teacher Mizuki had told him. He had just failed his genin exam for the third consecutive time and was very downcast. His sensei Mizuki had told him of the alternate exam. That's why he was now here, practicing the Kage Bunshin technique, and he had just got it right. To say that Naruto Uzumaki was excited would be an understatement. Naruto sat down for a quick breather before looking at the scroll again. Let's see. I've got the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu down. Next Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Kanai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Bunshin Bakuho. I'll copy these down to learn later, he thought with a large grin plastered on his face. He quickly reached into his hideous orange jacket and pulled out an empty scroll with ink and brush. The benefits of being a prankster, he thought. After copying down the 3 techniques, he quickly skimmed through the next part of the scroll and saw something that would forever change his life, though he didn't know it at the moment. Right there on the scroll was his name written to Naruto Uzumaki. Curious as to what it was, he studied it for a bit and noticed that it was a blood seal. Now many would have thought that he would not have such advanced knowledge, but he knew this because the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, usually delivered his monthly allowance to him in such scrolls. Therefore identifying one was a menial task for him. He quickly nicked his thumb with a kunai from his equipment pouch and smeared the blood over the seal while pouring chakra into the scroll. Immediately another scroll appeared. He was curious about it but put it into his pocket for later along with the scroll containing the copies of the shadow techniques. As he stood up beginning to wonder whether or not his sensei would show up, he heard someone enter the clearing, huffing from having run a long distance. "You!" said an angry voice from behind him. He quickly turned around and smiled when he saw his academy teacher Irika Umino. Hey Irika-sensei, I found you," said Naruto. "Baka, I found you," shouted the teacher. "I only managed to learn one of the techniques on the scroll, but you'll have to pass me for sure," grinned an enthusiastic Naruto while pumping his fist into the air. Now this confused Irika as he pondered. He's been training, no wonder he's so exhausted. But what's he talking about graduating? "Mizuki-sensei told me about the alternate graduation exam," continued Naruto eagerly. "He said if I learned a technique from the scroll I'd pass for sure." Naruto began Irika, but he was quickly cut off by the sound of 6 kunai heading towards him. He quickly turned around but was so shocked to see who the attacker was that he took the weapons head on. He stifled a gasp. "Mizuki," he breathed out venomously. "Why?" Mizuki simply snorted and said, "I see you found the Gaki for me. Congratulations, you just signed your death warrant along with the demon Gaki over there." Naruto could not believe what he was hearing. The teacher who was always smiling at him wanted to kill him. He started to panic and almost broke down until he heard the voice of Irika telling him, "Get away from here, Naruto. Just don't let Mizuki get his hands on the scroll. He's using you to get it for himself." Naruto was shocked, but made to get up and run. Before he could make but 5 steps, Mizuki took 6 shuriken from his equipment pouch and flung them at Naruto at an incredible speed. Irika saw the attack and tried his best to remove Naruto from its path, but in so doing ended up with 3 of the weapons in his chest and shoulder, while the others missed and lodged themselves into a nearby tree. "Why do you protect him?" sneered an angry Mizuki. "After all the things that this demon did, you still stand by his side? Why do you protect a demon that killed hundreds of innocent people?" "Stop it, Mizuki!" exclaimed Irika. "You know we're not supposed to speak of this. It's forbidden for a reason," stated Irika. He tried to stop Mizuki from telling Naruto about the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. Mizuki, however, had no intention of stopping and continued on. For years he had wanted nothing more than to wring Naruto's neck or stick a kunai in his throat. Now that he got his chance, he definitely wasn't going to pass it up. "Naruto, do you know why everybody hates you? Why everybody treats you so bad like you did something? Why nobody wants to be your friend? Of course you don't know, it's an S-class secret after all. Listen, well, you little demon, 12 years ago the Yondaime didn't kill the Kyuubi, instead he sealed it into a baby. And do you know who that baby was? Can you take a guess, or are you too dumb to figure it out?" Naruto stood shell-shocked. All the things that he had once thought were a coincidence were now being explained. No wonder he always suffered the worst beatings on his birthday, October 10th, which was coincidentally the day the Kyuubi was killed. No wonder all of the parents told their children to stay away from him, and he was always alone. The Kyuubi was sealed inside of him. He was broken from his musings when he heard his other teacher shout out, "Please, Mizuki, stop it!" But the cry fell on deaf ears as he continued on. "You were the one chosen to contain the Kyuubi. You are the nine-tailed demon fox." "No," thought Naruto, "am I really the Kyuubi? If that's the case, then maybe I should just die." Mizuki, seeing his chance, took a Fuma shuriken from his back and flung it full force towards the paralyzed Naruto while screaming out, "Dai!" "No!" shouted Iruka as he pushed as much chakra as he dared into his legs and was a blur as he sped towards Naruto. The next few moments looked like a blur to Naruto as he looked up after feeling a warm liquid fall on his face. "Why?" he stuttered out. "Why did you protect me?" Naruto was at a loss for words. He knew that Iruka cared for him as a student, but to go to such lengths was unimaginable to him, having never been shown such compassion. "I protected you because you're precious to me," he said. "You and I are a lot alike, Naruto. We're both orphans and pranksters at heart. We both grew up alone and ended up seeking attention in the wrong way. If only I'd seen it, how much you were hurt. Growing up alone, I could have helped you more because I've been in your situation. But I didn't, and I'm sorry, Naruto. From now on I swear to protect you, Naruto, to help you as much as I can. Now, get out of here, run as fast as you can towards Hokage-sama and explain everything to him." "Ha, Iruka-sensei," said Naruto with tears threatening to fall from his eyes, "arigato, for accepting me." With that said, he shot forward in a sprint towards the Hokage Tower. "Now look what you've done," said Mizuki. "Now I'm gonna have to search for him and kill you afterwards," he laughed. Naruto was running through the trees when suddenly Iruka appeared behind him saying, "Naruto, hand me the scroll before Mizuki catches up to you." Naruto promptly turned around and head-butted Iruka as they both fell to the forest floor. "How do you know that I'm not Iruka?" asked Mizuki as the henge that he had slipped away. "Because I'm Iruka," he replied as the henge. Naruto turned to Iruka. "Heh, why do you protect that demon, Iruka?" asked Mizuki. "You know that it killed a whole lot of people 12 years ago. It even killed your parents, Iruka. Don't you hate that stupid fox for killing your parents and leaving you homeless?" "You're right," replied Iruka, "I hate the fox for doing that." A small ways away behind a tree, Naruto immediately broke down with his shoulders slumped. "To think that I thought that he actually cared for me," thought Naruto. But hearing the next few words that were spoken by Iruka immediately changed his mindset. "I hate the fox," sealed inside of Naruto, "but I can never hate him. He may not be the brightest student, and he may be clumsy and pull pranks, but he's one of my precious people and one of the future Hokages of Konohagure no Sato. He's Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it." "Whatever, Iruka," said Mizuki. "I was saving you for after I killed the demon brat, but I'm gonna be finishing you off first." With that, he quickly removed a giant shuriken from his backpack and flung it full speed towards Iruka. "So this is how I die," thought Iruka. "I'm sorry, Naruto, I couldn't protect you." Naruto, who had been looking on all the time, was amazed by the words that his teacher had spoken. And after hearing such a confession from his teacher would die before he let him go so easily. Mustering as much strength as he could, he flew through the air and kicked the shuriken out of the air. When he landed, he stayed in a crouched position with his blonde hair overshadowing his face. He then said, "If you lay even one finger on Iruka-sensei, I'll kill you." Mizuki simply laughed out loud and said, "You and what army, punk?" Here was the dead last of the academy threatening a Chunin with death. The very thought was laughable at best. It was downright hilarious to him. While being caught up in his own musings, he failed to notice the faint outline of chakra that began to seep out of Naruto while he prepared himself for his jutsu. He still continued to taunt Naruto by saying, "Tell you what, I'll give you a chance before I kill you." Naruto, not wasting any time, said, "Whatever you dish out, I'll send it back at you 1,000 times harder. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Numerous puffs of smoke later, a sea of orange was the only thing that could describe the scene before the two academy teachers. Both stood with their eyes bulging out of their sockets as they gazed upon the technique performed by Naruto. Never in their lives would they have expected the dead last of the academy to be able to perform a B-ranked kenjutsu in the span of mere hours, let alone master it to such an extent. Here was the same person who couldn't even create a bunshin even if his life depended on it mastering a kenjutsu. Mizuki was in an entranced state, he couldn't believe his eyes. So Naruto merely took advantage of the situation and shouted to all of the clones, "Charge!" Before long, all that was left of Mizuki was a bloody pulp for his body. Naruto, while grinning like an idiot, rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and said, "Ne Iruka-sensei, do you think I went a little overboard?" Iruka, having had little time to process all that he had seen, immediately perked up and just smiled at his favorite student. Here he thought that Naruto was a slow learner and would probably have to repeat the academy another year, but it seemed that he earned the right to be called a genin, and he would be sure to honor what Mizuki had told Naruto, even if it was with evil intentions. "Come over here, Naruto," he said. Had laughed Naruto when he arrived. "Close your eyes, Naruto." Naruto did as asked and closed his eyes and was about to ask what was the matter till he felt cold metal against his forehead, and hearing his teacher say, "You can open them now." "What?" He began saying, kinda confused, until he saw that his teacher's forehead was bare, the exact place where his hiatate used to be. He gasped. "Congratulations on passing, Naruto. I expect great things from you," said the Chunin. He almost didn't have time to complete his statement before he was enveloped in a bone-crushing hug from Naruto with a cry of, "Iruka-sensei!" Stifled Iruka as Naruto literally crushed him. "Easy there, we've got to get to the hospital and get this looked over, okay?" "Sure thing, sensei," replied Naruto enthusiastically. And so the two began their slow trek back to the village proper, both wearing identical smiles on their faces while dragging an unconscious Mizuki and the forbidden scroll behind them. Unknown to Naruto and Iruka, a deep rumbling was currently sounding in his head, saying it is time. To say that Hiruzen Sarutobi was tired would be the understatement of the year. Earlier that night, while going back to the Hokage Tower after a long day's work to retrieve a scroll for his son Asuma, he fell prey to one of the most dangerous jutsus that he had ever seen, Naruto's sexy jutsu. Now this begs the question of what Naruto was doing in the Hokage Tower at that time, something that he had recently resolved while looking at the battle between Naruto and Mizuki through his viewing orb. He had found out that Naruto had been tricked by one of his academy instructors, namely Mizuki, into stealing the forbidden scroll of seals as a way to graduate from the academy. He had proceeded to look at the ensuing battle between Iruka and Mizuki and felt a sense of relief that Iruka had taken his words to heart and accepted Naruto. He had watched nonplussed as Naruto learned the truth about the Kyuubi and then kicked the living daylights out of Mizuki. It was at this point that he called off the search and informed the shinobi that the scroll was in safe hands. He continued to look as Iruka removed his headband and tied it around Naruto's forehead, and then continued on towards the hospital where Iruka was treated for his injuries. Which brought him to the present. A knock was heard, and with a quick enter, his secretary informed him that Naruto and Iruka were here to see him. When they entered, Naruto was in the front, literally dragging his sensei behind him with a grin that could rival that of a fox on his face. "Aji-san," he yelled out as soon as he entered. "It's been a while, and Naruto?" Sarutobi said while maintaining an impassive face. This caused Naruto to smile even wider, and the elder Hokage finally gave way and let a small smile spread on his lips. "Please be seated," he said, gesturing with his hand. "We have much to talk about." And so began a recollection of the night's activities by Naruto, with Iruka adding in bits and pieces where necessary. Naruto, though, carefully omitted the parts where he received the scroll and copied the other techniques. After completing their tale, the Hokage just shook his head and chuckled deeply. You could always count on Naruto to provide entertainment in the village. Just earlier that day he had painted the Hokage mountain, and would have gotten away with it had it not been for Iruka finding him. It was still a mystery to him how Naruto seemed to outrun and outwit most of his Chunin, Jounin, and even the occasional Anbu sent on his trail. "Now, Naruto, I know that you stole the scroll," the Hokage began. At the mention of this, Naruto's face turned solemn. "And I know that you found out about the Kyuubi stuck in your gut." At this the 12-year-old winced, but the Hokage continued on. "But you should in no way believe even for a second that you are the Kyuubi. You are Naruto Uzumaki, proud genin of Konoha, and shinobi in training. Get that through your head. You see, after sealing the Kyuubi into you, the Yondaime had one final request, and that was for the villagers of Konoha to see you as the hero that you are. His final wishes, however, were not fulfilled, hence the kind of life that you led. But don't worry, Naruto, we believe in you," he finished with a warm smile. At that point Naruto looked up with tears threatening to fall for the third time that night. Here he was yet again being acknowledged by another person. Maybe he thought, maybe I'm slowly getting the village to recognize me, to recognize that I'm not the Kyuubi but Naruto Uzumaki, even if it only began with 2 people. When he looked at the Sandaime, you could literally see the fire burning within him as he decided to prove his worth to the village. Seeing this, the Sandaime was content. He was happy to know that Naruto had at least found someone precious to him, and from the looks of things would do whatever it takes to keep them. So Naruto asked Iruka, "What are you planning to do now that you've become a genin?" "Well, after getting placed on a team, I'm gonna be training like there's no tomorrow so I'll be able to protect my precious people and the entire village. Then maybe someday, They will all accept me and I'll have an honest shot at being Hokage, answered Naruto. He said this with so much conviction that Iruka was surprised. The Hokage, however, had been expecting such a declaration and thought, he's beginning to act more like you now, my friend. I just hope that I will be there to see him fulfill that dream. You would be proud of your son, old friend. A stifled yawn was what alerted both experienced ninjas to Naruto's state of tiredness, and with a simple nod from the Sandaime, Iruka excused himself, but not before informing Naruto that team placements would be taking place in 2 weeks' time, and that he should remove his ninja ID photo the following day. The Hokage himself personally sunshined Naruto to his apartment, where they exchanged goodbyes and Naruto promptly fell asleep. He promptly left to go back to his office, but not before writing something on some paper and placing it on the table, then going home to get whatever sleep he could. Naruto awoke with a start. He had just lain down to sleep and here he was already awake. It didn't seem logical to him. Besides, since when did he begin to think of things as logical? He slowly opened his eyes and tried clearing the cobwebs from his mind. When he did, he looked around him and noticed that he was in some type of sewer. Where am I? He thought. It's almost like there's nothing in this place. He continued walking till he could see a faint outline of red a long distance away. Seeing it, he sprinted towards it while feeling drawn to it. When he arrived, he stood in shock for a short moment. To his front was a large cage with a red tint to it. On the center of said cage was a paper with the kanji for seal on it. He stifled a gasp and dared not breathe. Right in front of him was the very creature that he had learned of earlier in the night. He was at a loss for words, until he collected his wits and said, "Kyuubi, I presume." The creature simply nodded its gigantic head. "So why am I here in my mind?" asked a curious Naruto. "You are here, mortal, because I called you while you were in your sleep," it replied. Naruto's eyebrows rose as if saying silently, "Really?" He then asked, "So what do you want of me?" "Cause, for all intents and purposes, I know you to be an evil, death-loving, psychotic demon fox. But something doesn't seem right," he thought to himself. At this, the Kyuubi simply looked into his eyes, trying to find some semblance of fear or hatred. It was most surprised when all it found was confidence and an unbreakable will. So it began. "I have called you here for many reasons, young one. The first of which is to inform you of why I attacked Konoha. The reason for this lies with those who wield the legendary Sharingan. The first of the Uchiha, Madara Uchiha, was the one who caused such devastation on the village that you hold so dear to you." "Wait a minute, how can this Madara Uchiha be alive if he was the first to gain the Sharingan?" asked a confused Naruto. "All will be explained, young one," continued the Kyuubi. "You see, this Madara Uchiha was once a leader of the Uchihas. However, his greed and desire for power was what led to his downfall after killing his brother to obtain a higher level of the Sharingan, the Manjikyu Sharingan. After learning of what he did to obtain this power, he was almost exiled from his clan, and shortly afterward, he challenged the Shodai Hokage to a fight to determine who would be the leader of Konoha. He lost. Shortly after, he was exiled from his clan and vowed revenge on Konoha, even if it cost him his very soul. He wandered for many years and met the seven-tailed beast. He made a request to it, but it said that said request would only be granted if he bested one of the beast's children in battle. He won, and requested immortality from the seven-tailed beast, which it granted. However, true immortality is even beyond the power of the tailed beasts, therefore he only got a limited form of immortality. True, he would never die of natural age, but extensive damage to the vital points and decapitation would be able to kill him. After this, he waited a few years before fulfilling what he had pledged, revenge on Konoha. He did this by seeking me out from my den. I refused to assist him in doing such an evil, especially to a country that had my blessings, and so he rushed towards my kits and mate in an attempt to slay them. He didn't succeed. I was overcome with rage and lashed out wildly after him. In my anger, I forget the abilities of that accursed eye and looked him right in it. While in his control, he tortured me with what you call genjutsu for some time before I was able to overcome it with my massive chakra. Once free, I almost went insane and followed him wherever he went. For days I searched for him, and he ultimately led me to Konoha, where I proceeded to wreak havoc and destruction upon everything in my way as never seen before. This all happened until the one you call Yondaime sealed me inside of you using the Shiki Fujin and Shursho Fuin. Even before he completed the seals, he looked at me and asked why I did such. I responded with a gut-wrenching howl, then said 2 words, Madara Uchiha. It was during that time that he saw the insane look in my eye and apologized for having to do what he did. In that time, he also asked that I watch over you, and that young one is what I've been doing since your birth. Wow, said Naruto, to think that the most destructive force that ever faced the shinobi world was caused by a human, and said force has been watching over me. You know, I knew there was something about you that was out of the ordinary. Why do you say this? Asked the QB. Because even if I was shocked when I came to the cage, there was no ill intent or malice or hatred coming off of you, replied the blonde. Interesting, to think that he would progress so far in such a short space of time. He truly is his father's son, but it's not my place to inform him of this, thought the QB. You know, young one, you are only the second human that has earned my respect in such a short time. The first being the one who sealed me here. But enough of my babbling. The second reason I called you here is to make a request of you. It's been over 12 years that I have experienced the world. I'm not releasing you, said Naruto quickly before the QB could finish its statement, even if I wanted to, and you may not be as evil as we all thought. I don't know how, but you have to earn your keep. The QB was amused by the display. So before any misunderstandings could arise, it spoke again. You misunderstand me, young one. I do not wish to escape, I merely wish to experience the world again. See what you see, feel what you feel, hear what you hear, and so on. To allow this, simply tear off the bottom right corner of the seal on the gate. This will also allow me to speak with you and you with me consciously. In exchange, I will quicken a process that has already begun that I'm sure you are aware of. I will also enhance your senses tomorrow to the highest level possible without excessive damage to you. You mean the fact that I can think and speak clearer? Naruto said matter-of-factly. Yes, young one. That was as a result of one of the 4 suppression seals that were placed on you at birth being broken. Each of these seals suppress some of your natural talent and abilities, hence the reason why you found it so difficult to listen to or learn practically everything. However, if you hadn't noticed, as long as you want to learn something, you learn it quite quickly. Like the Kage Bunshin, he said. Yes, the QB replied. That is because you have a photographic memory, and it only displayed itself during times of tremendous willpower. The other suppression seals were placed for suppressing intelligence, chakra control, chakra, and your photographic memory. Now I will remove these seals now, as well as grant you something else when I deem you ready, if you allow me to experience what you do. Sounds fair, thought Naruto, so with that in mind, he did as the QB requested. The changes will take effect when you wake up. The third and final reason that I brought you here is to remind you of the 2 scrolls that you have in your possession should be read as soon as possible. Also, I should tell you now that I will aid you in training, but only if you can find an additional use for the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Thanks a lot, QB. By the way, is your name QB, or is it just your title? Asked a curious Naruto. It is but a title. My name, as you put it, is Hikari, and I was once a guardian of the light. But that, my young friend, is a story for another time, it replied. Is that all? Asked Naruto. For now, yes. I'll send you on your way now, young one. Okay, said Naruto. By the way, said the QB as Naruto began to disappear, get rid of that atrocious orange jumpsuit. And I'm female. Ha 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 ha. As he was disappearing, Naruto was flabbergasted at the final revelation that the QB had just given to him. That terrible force of nature that everyone thought was male was in actuality a female. There was as much truth in the statement, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. A new leaf. Re-thawing. Re-thawing. Re-dash. A kunai found itself lodged in the center of the alarm clock as Naruto groggily mumbled something about 5 more minutes before giving in and opening his eyes. He sat up from his bed and stretched before following his morning ritual. He then looked at the clock up on the wall and noticed that it was 7 in the morning. Why'd I get up so early, he thought to himself. It's not like there's classes today. Maybe I can go bother Aji-san, he thought with a light chuckle. Yep, it settled. With that in mind, he had a quick breakfast of cereal and was on his way out the door when he noticed a note on the dresser. What's this? Looks like Aji-san's handwriting. It read. Hey Naruto, just wanted to let you know that during the 2 weeks before you get placed in teams, you should train as hard as you can. If you need any help, you are welcome to approach me. Sarutobi. Naruto reread the note, then tucked it into his jacket, and began his trek to the Hokage Tower. On his way, he was suddenly startled by a voice that said, You know, the Hokage is right, you should step up your training. If you do, then I will be able to hold up my end of the bargain. Q Hikari? He asked. It is I, she replied. The Hokage has given you some good advice, and I would suggest that you follow it. I have had to hold back on enhancing your senses because it would cause too much of a strain on you. However, over the 2-week period that you have, you will be training them as they are enhanced, but you will first need some supplies. What supplies, Hikari? Asked Naruto in his mind as he continued towards the Hokage Tower, ignoring all of the glares and nasty words that were sent his way. You will need some shades, ear plugs as well as nose plugs, she replied. These will for training your eyes, ears, and nose. And don't forget to read those scrolls that I told you of, as well as getting better clothing fit for a shinobi. Okay, I will, replied Naruto. And so he continued on his way to the Hokage Tower until it occurred to him that maybe he should have a wardrobe makeover before taking his ninja ID. With that in mind, he made a detour to the shopping district of Konoha and tried store after store, but was either refused service or given the worst goods at each one. Tired of it all, he almost gave up until he saw a small shinobi-only store that he had never noticed before. So gathering up his courage, he entered. "Good morning and welcome to the Higurashi Shinobi store. How may I help you?" asked the young attendant at the desk. Naruto was surprised. Never had he been given such a warm welcome in a store before. That alone set them as the best store, second only to the Ichiraku ramen that old man Tucci owned with his daughter Ayam. In front of him now sat a dark-haired girl with a white sleeveless Chinese-style blouse and brown pants. Hi, I'm Naruto and I'm looking for a whole wardrobe makeover?" he asked, hoping that he would not blow his chance at finally being able to get some half-decent ninja gear. "Well, Naruto, you came to the right place. The Higurashi weapons store is one of the best in Konoha. By the way, my name is Tenten Higurashi. Nice to meet you," she said while extending her hand out, which Naruto shook. "Okay. I think I'm gonna need a lot of help cause I've never really done this before," said Naruto shyly. "Really now?" said a deep voice from behind him. He quickly whirled around to face a tall man who looked to be in his late 30s, and if looks were anything to go by, then he was definitely related to Tenten. "Hi, I'm the owner of the store, Hiroshi, and Tenten's dad," he said, extending his hand for a handshake with a small smile on his lips. In his mind, however, an entirely different set of thoughts were being processed. So this is the one that the Yondaime choose to seal the QB in. Come to think of it, he does look a lot like him, I wonder. I'll have to have a talk with the Sandaime sometime soon. He was broken from his thoughts when his daughter asked, "Hey Dad, would you mind manning the cashier for a while? I'm gonna help Naruto pick out his clothes." "Sure thing, Pumpkin, just ensure you don't do anything naughty, alright?" he said at the expense of his daughter. Tenten swung her fist at her father, but he just held it in place while laughing heartily. "Come on, Naruto, let's go before my dad gets any more ideas," said an irritated Tenten. "Sure," he replied, not sure of what else he could say. And so they began their trek throughout the store past various weapons as Tenten babbled on about virtually every weapon that they passed until they arrived at the clothing department. "Okay, we're here. Now what exactly do you want?" asked Tenten. I'm not sure, but I do know that I want clothing that will allow me to blend in. Preferably black, dark green, dark blue, or red," replied Naruto. He was excited to say the least. Who knew that clothes shopping could be this interesting without people pushing you out of the store or charging you 3 times the listed price for the worst products? Tenten mumbled as she went along picking out clothes of various colors. After a few minutes of incessant mumbling by Tenten, she finally emerged with a large bundle in her arms, which she flung onto Naruto, who had a hard time keeping his balance until he finally stabilized. "Go try these on," she ordered. And that's how the next hour continued for Naruto, with him trying on different outfits, and Tenten either voicing her approval or disapproval. In the end, he chose 12 different outfits of pants, form-fitting shirts and overshirts. 5 in black, 3 in dark red, 2 in dark green and the others in blue. Out of the 12 he put one of the black outfits on, then was told, "Ask if they are able to insert a mirror in the vital areas," said Hikari. She had been looking at his choices and she was not disappointed by his apparel. Also, request 5 pairs of armored fingerless gloves. He quickly relayed these requests to Tenten, and after some searching returned with them. "Okay, I think that settles my wardrobe," said Naruto. "Now it's time for weapons." Before Tenten could even begin her long explanation of the different weapons and their uses again, he told her what he needed. I'll need 5 dozen kunai, shuriken and exploding tags, 100 feet of ninja wire, 2 dozen flash tags, and 6 blank scrolls." His requests were quickly filled out, and before long they were ready to head back to the counter to pay for the items. On the way, the two continued to engage in small talk about different things, and it was here that Tenten learned that he was in her graduation class but failed due to his inability to produce a bunch, and he also told her that he recently graduated and was waiting to be placed in his genin team along with their sensei. Naruto, on the other hand, learned that she had been in a team for almost a year now and was teamed up with a stuck-up Hyuga and 2 spandex-wearing taijutsu freaks. Naruto roared with laughter at her description but was informed that though they were weird they made a great team. As they neared the counter, Tenten's dad, Hiroshi, couldn't help but smile when he saw the 2 teenagers enjoying their time together. It wasn't often that his daughter had the chance to enjoy company since she had so many duties as a kunoichi. Her time was limited. He almost did a double take when he saw Naruto since he was now decked in full shinobi attire, including the gloves and tape. He would definitely be a heartbreaker in the near future. "Hey Dad, we're done now," said Tenten as they walked to the counter. "Yeah, except I need some armor sewn into the others so they'll be more sturdy. And I also need some shades, ear and nose plugs," added Naruto. "Okay," Hiroshi said. "That should take about 4 days to complete. Would you like them delivered or will you pick them up?" he asked. "I'll pick them up," replied Naruto. "How much does it cost?" Hiroshi thought for a while, and before Tenten began to count the total he smiled at Naruto and said, "Consider this a late birthday present for the hero of Konoha." Naruto was stunned. He had rarely been given anything for free in his life, and whenever it was given to him it was to cause some sort of harm, apart from what he received from the Hokage and Old Man Tuchi. But then he remembered the last statement, "for the hero of Konoha," and smiled a genuine smile. Tenten, on the other hand, stared open-mouthed at her father. Her father never gave something away for free. Not even the Hokage got that privilege. So for him to give away so much to Naruto, there must have been something behind it. And what did he mean by the hero of Konoha? After saying thank you to the father and daughter many times, he finally left with everything except the clothing and his orange jumpsuit. Speaking of which, as soon as he removed it, Tenten quickly took it and burned it faster than he could react, and waved him a victory sign. Finally, the orange monstrosity was destroyed, although there were 3 identical sets at his home, but alas, they would meet a similar fate. While leaving, the failed to see the smile located on Hiroshi's lips as he stared at his back. "One day," he said lightly to himself, "one day you'll show them all." Although it was spoken to himself, it didn't stop his daughter from hearing, which only served to increase her curiosity in regards to the blonde, blue-eyed shinobi. As he was walking home, he sighed as he remembered that he had to take his ninja ID today. About to quicken his pace, he thought of something and quickly dropped his packages and made a kage bunshin and told it what to do. With a cry of aso, it grabbed the packages and made its way to the house. The real Naruto, in the meantime, continued walking to the Hokage tower to remove his picture for his ID. On the way, he failed to notice that the usual glares that he received were not as many. There were actually some looks of surprise. Oh, and was that a young girl drooling while staring at him? Yes, Naruto Uzumaki was oblivious to all of the mixed attention that he was getting from the villagers. After Naruto removed his picture, he was heading to see the Hokage when he suddenly stopped mid-step. He thought, how come I remember going home and placing my supplies there while I was getting my ID set up? Wait, is this what Hikari spoke of about getting another ability of the Kage Bunshin? I'm gonna have to experiment a bit. So he continued his path to the Hokage, where he was let through with no difficulty, which he found to be strange because the Chunin guards usually tried to stop him from entering. Strange, he thought. As he entered the Hokage's offices, he said, "Oh hey Aji-san, how's the paperwork?" Hearing the familiar voice, the Hokage looked up from his desk and almost dropped his pipe that was hanging from his mouth. He couldn't believe that Naruto was actually the person standing in front of him. He was tempted to try to dispel the genjutsu if it was one, but refrained. "Come on, old man, are you so old that you can't even see that at me? Or are you so struck by my mighty awesomeness that you want to make me Hokage in your place?" said Naruto with a goofy grin on his face while heading over to sit on one of the chairs. Any doubts that the Hokage had instantly vanished, for only Naruto could sound so disrespectfully respectful at the same time. The Hokage quickly gathered his wits and said, "I take it you found my note?" "Yeah, Aji-san, but I don't need any help right now," he replied. "Okay, so why are you here?" he asked. "To inform you of some vital information," said Naruto. Sarutobi perked up at this. What information could Naruto have that could be vital? Unless it was related to the Kyuubi, but he couldn't contact it. Right. "It's about Hikari," he began. At Sarutobi's raised eyebrows, he elaborated, "The Kyuubi." The Hokage was barely containing his surprise now. He had thought that Naruto would not be able to contact the Kyuubi for some time, but apparently, he could communicate with it. And what's this about him calling the Kyuubi Hikari? And so for the next hour and a half, Naruto explained to the Hokage all that he and Hikari had spoken of. At the end, the Hokage was mystified. That thrice-damned clan was once again responsible for a disaster in Konoha. He informed Naruto that the information that he had just revealed to him would be kept as an S-class secret and that he should not share that information with anyone. He also informed him that he would be paid for a B-class mission for exposing a traitor the previous night, though the details also had to be kept a secret. It was at that moment that Naruto asked the Sandaime for some information about shadow clones and was elated to find out that his observations were correct. Oh, the possibilities with this ability, he thought. Oh yes, Naruto was definitely going to put the Kage Bunshin to good use. After some small talk on how he was doing and if he was eating right, the Sandaime released him and he headed home, but not before making his daily stop at the Ichiraku ramen stand. Naruto entered his home feeling energized as he had just come from the Ichiraku ramen stand and eaten his fill. Right now, he was focused on reading the 2 scrolls that he had acquired the night before. Eagerly, he reached for them and found them on the shelf that he left them earlier that day. He sighed as he thought of which one to open first. Should I go for the techniques or the nameless scroll? I think I'll go for the nameless scroll. With that in mind, he reached for it but was stopped as Hikari made her presence known to him. I don't think that you should open that scroll first, young one. Learn the techniques and when you are proficient enough with them, open the other, not to mention the information inside there may be a bit too stressful to deal with right now. Sure thing, Hikari said Naruto. With that in mind, he grabbed the technique scroll and headed to one of the more abandoned training grounds on the edge of the village. After all, none of the villagers would want to know that the demon brat was getting stronger to kill them. As he sat down in training ground 37, he opened the scroll and reread the techniques that he had copied down. Let's start with Kanai Kage Bunshin, he thought. So he trained for about 2 hours before he eventually got the hang of it. After all, having already mastered the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu gave him an idea of what was needed to be done. After practicing the Kanai Kage Bunshin for some more time, he moved on to the Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. This one was even easier to him as he went on non-stop for another 2 hours until he finally began to feel his chakra going low. Better get home, he thought as he watched the sun begin to hide below the horizon. On his way home, he took to the rooftops and reached quickly. He immediately took a bath and had a light dinner of 5 cups of instant ramen. In his mind, Hikari grumbled I should get him to start eating something other than ramen. That stuff seriously stunts his growth. After cooling out for some time, he contemplated going to bed but decided that he should read the other scroll that he got the night he beat up Mizuki and graduated from the academy. He grabbed it and thought for a moment, I wonder what's in there. Maybe something that Aji-san has for me. I'll tell him about it tomorrow, he decided. Within his mind, Hikari was beginning to panic. What if he can't deal with what is written in that scroll? What will I do if he wants revenge? Kami-sama, I hope all is well. Looking at the scroll another time, he noticed that there was yet another blood seal, so he did what was necessary, and the scroll glowed a light blue before opening. As he began to unroll the scroll, his hands began to fumble in excitement and anticipation. Finally getting it free, he began reading. Dear son, how are you? I hope you're fine and in good health. I write this letter with a heavy heart because of the situation surrounding it. Right now, we are 17 hours away from impending doom. Our sources have informed us that the Kyuubi is currently wreaking havoc and is heading towards our village in a blind rage. As to what it is angry about, we have no idea, but I do know that it is usually a creature of gentleness and protected our village sometimes. However, we do know that if something is not done, nothing will be left of the village. It is in that regard that I have a heavy heart, because this battle with the Kyuubi will be my last. When the Kyuubi approaches us, I will attempt to seal it into a newborn child, and if you have not been able to piece it together, that newborn child was you and I am the 4th Hokage. Why, you may ask? The only thing strong enough, living or otherwise, that is able to hold back a being of such power is a newborn child whose chakra coils have yet to be developed. That is why I choose you. Even if there were other available children, what kind of Hokage would I be if I was unable to use my own child but could use someone else's? If you have lived a terrible life, then I am sorry. Though I wish that you would be hailed as a hero in the village, I am very realistic and know that you will not be hailed as such. I only find solace in the fact that the Sandaime will keep you alive, but may be limited, due to the interference of the civilian council. I asked Sarutobi that your heritage be kept a secret from you until he deemed you ready, willing and able to face the truth. Not even the council knows of your parentage, though my teammates may be able to piece it together. I also want you to refrain from taking on the Namake's name until you are able to hold out against my Jounin instructor at full power for at least 1 hour. His name is Jiraiya and he's one of the Sannin. I want you to know, Naruto, that both your mother and I love you very much, and would fight death if it was possible to be with you. However, we are unable to because I died sealing the Kyuubi into you and your mother died shortly after giving birth to you. Don't you dare think for a moment that you caused our deaths, just remember that though we are gone, you will always have a special place in our hearts. Now on to something that has been 9 months in the making, our special gift to you, a training schedule designed by your mother, and I during her pregnancy sealed below. Along with this you will also obtain all of our techniques, including my famous Haraishin. I have also included some things and information that I think might be useful to you. These along with whatever else you pick up along the way will aid you in becoming a great shinobi Naruto. Do us proud and learn well as you earn your name through the shinobi world as did your mother, and I Konoha's raging storm and Konoha's yellow flash. Live life to the fullest sun and make us proud. Your loving parents. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. P.S. If you ever need any help with anything, look for one of my students named Hataki Kakashi, and show him one of the Haraishin kunai that I made for you. Naruto just stared at the letter blankly for a long while before simply folding it back up, sealing it, and placing it on a shelf. Afterwards he sat on a chair and broke down. All the pent-up emotions that he had hidden with his smiles, all the pain and grief that he had been exposed to at an early age and later on in life, he simply let the tears flow freely. Finally, he had found out who his parents were, only to be informed that they were dead. At least, they loved me. He thought they didn't abandon me like I always thought, but really loved me even in their death. I love you too, San, Ka-san, even if you may not be able to hear me, I love you and will do all I can to make you proud of me. Starting right now, I'm turning over a new leaf. And no longer will I just be an idiot that everyone hates and despises, I'll be the one they look up to. It's a promise to San, Ka-san, and I never go back on my words. I love you. It was with these final thoughts that Naruto finally gave way to blissful unconsciousness, as he fell limply onto his bed. Hikari had been observing Naruto from within the confines of his mind, as was astounded by the level-headedness he displayed. If she had to describe it, she would say that she was proud of him. Sleep well, young one, for tomorrow holds much in store for you. Training begins. Naruto had just awoken. He stretched while sitting up on his bed and was about to do his morning routine when Hikari called to him. In response, he found himself within the confines of the cage that kept her. Hello, Naruto. Slept well? She asked. Yeah, like a rock, he replied. But enough of that, why do you call so early in the morning? It's barely 5 in the morning, he said while yawning. I called you here because it's time for your training. At this, his herd perked up and his interest was piqued. You remember the suppression seals that I told you have been placed on you? She asked. At this, he nodded. I will be removing them while you are here, all 4 of them. This is because the amount of pain will be high, and you do not feel any pain while in your mindscape. Naruto's mouth made an invisible O after hearing this. I also wanted to inform you that I saw what you read last night and heard your thoughts. And yes, I can read your thoughts. I am fully committed to aiding you on that journey and will do all in my power to see you succeed. After that statement, Naruto stood beaming with pride as he listened to Hikari. After removing the suppression seals, we will be working on getting you familiar with your enhanced senses, all of which I activated the minute you entered here. However, they are not all at their maximum intensity, and it is during training that I will be working with you to hone your senses. Really and truly, I don't know what to say, Hikari, said a grateful Naruto. It's almost like my thanks would be nothing compared to what you've done for me. But still, thanks from the bottom of my heart. No problem. Now it's time to wake up to begin training. Hi, Hikari, said Naruto. With that, Naruto faded from his mindscape and found himself in his apartment. Quickly changing into his new clothing and grabbing some of his purchases from the day before, he stepped outside and made his way to Training Ground 37. On the way, he started a brief conversation with Hikari. So Hikari, he started, what am I going to be doing today? Today, you will be training your senses. Now that you mention it, please put on the shades that I requested you by, cause this is gonna sting a bit. Doing what was requested, he felt a slight twitch in his eyes and noticed that though he had on shades, he still saw as clear as day. What was the one word he could manage at the moment? Still feeling a slight twitch to his eyes, he decided to try focusing on the training ground that he was headed to, which was about 300 meters away. While looking, he noticed that he could make out minute details such as the distance between the different training posts in the area. To him it was incredible. But the voice of Hikari told him different. That, Naruto, is only about half of the full power that is available to you. At full power, you will be able to make out details on someone's face from over 50 meters away. With proper practice, you will be able to hit a stationary target from over 700 meters and a moving target at 300 meters. Geez, and all that is attainable through hard work, huh? If that's the case, then I'm gonna be the best there is, because I'll work 3 times as hard as everyone else. Yes, Naruto, said Hikari, you will have to work very hard, and whenever you slack off, I will be at you to get training. Believe it, shouted Naruto out loud. Upon arriving at the destination, Hikari once again spoke. Okay, Naruto, I want you to remove the shades since you've had them on for a considerable amount of time. He quickly did as she asked and noticed the intensity with which the sun shone. She was right, it would take his lots of time and practice to fully adjust to his new advanced senses. What do you think we should start with, Hikari? Asked Naruto. Begin with 25 laps around the training area, 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, 100 punches and 100 kicks. While you are doing this, I will slowly increase your sense of smell and hearing. After you are done, repeat till about 12:30, adding 25 more to each of the exercises. Oh, no chakra enhancement. Asa stated Naruto with a 2-finger salute. And so Naruto's training began with the guidance of Hikari. For 5.5 hours, Naruto went through the routine that Hikari had for him. Tirelessly he worked, and at the end he was extremely worn and a loud grumble from his stomach reminded him of the time as he collapsed against a tree. You've done good, Naruto. You have 1 hour to get some lunch, and for Kami's sake get something healthier than ramen. Not in a position to do anything but agree, he went into town and made his way to a Chiraku ramen stand. Once there, he ordered a healthy lunch and sat in silence as he ate slowly, too tired to engage in conversation. Finishing up his lunch as quickly as possible, he headed back over to the training ground and sat down against a tree for a quick nap, mentally asking Hikari to wake him at the appointed time. 35 minutes later he was awakened by Hikari and informed that he should continue his exercise from the morning, and so he continued until he dropped down tired and huffing from lack of air 6 hours later. You did good today, Naruto. Now head back home to take a bath and have some dinner, cause frankly you stink. Although I won't say it to you out loud, I'm impressed. To be able to keep up with such a workout. Not to mention the fact that all of his other senses have been increased to 15% of their max, and he has yet to complain although it hurt. This must have something to do with his healing factor. But still, with a will like that you will indeed reach far, Naruto. Hi, he replied. After doing as Hikari had recommended, he sat down on his sofa and looked at the clock. He still had about 3 hours to kill before going to bed, so he decided to go through the letter left to him by his dad once again. Going through, he noticed the seal at the bottom near the Namikaze insignia, and thinking it to be like a blood seal, poured chakra into it. Immediately, 4 different scrolls popped out, each protected with a blood seal. He grabbed the one closest to him, which was the smallest, and had the kanji for one written on it, and began reading. Hey son, in this scroll has a lot of information that could help you out with training, therefore it would be beneficial if you read it first and left the others for later and deal with them in alphabetical order. Outlined below is the training schedule that your mother and I set up for you for when you became a genin. This training will hopefully take you about 2 months to master, and afterwards more of the scroll will be revealed to you. Okay, on with the tort training schedule. 5 am get up. 5:15, 10 laps around Konoha. 6 o'clock, breakfast. 6:30, strength and stamina training, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, squats, kicks and punches, 100 of each, increasing every week by twice the amount. 12 o'clock, lunch. 1 o'clock, chakra control, tree climbing, water walking, kunai balancing. 4 o'clock, strength and stamina training, same as above. 7 o'clock, dinner. 8:30, meditation/study/tactics. 10:30, bedtime. This is just a guide for you, son, and you can change it as you see fit. Also, now that you are a genin, you will have missions, so this will leave you less time for training. Just ensure that your training is well-rounded and complete in all areas listed above. Sealed below is something that you will be using all of the time: chakra training weights. They are to be placed on the hands, legs and waist and act both as weights and a soldier pill, because when you release the weights, the chakra stored in them comes back to you. Use these tools that have been given to you well, son, as they are necessary to become a great shinobi. After completing this training, you should go on to the scroll labeled 2 to move on to some of the basics. Also, together with the sealed weights is another scroll informing you of how to perform the chakra control exercises, and when you have mastered them, use them well. With love, your dad. P.S. To reseal the scrolls, simply place them on top of the sealing scroll and place your hand over them while saying Fuin. I was a seal master. Reading the end of the scroll, he looked around and noted the 3 other scrolls, then looked at the one in his hand and unsealed the weights as well as the other scroll, then resealed the items. He sat up and looked at the time and noticed that it was 9 o'clock, so he decided to try meditation for some time. However, a short time after he began meditating, he began to feel himself being pulled away as if into a semi-conscious state. A few moments later, he opened his eyes and noticed that he was once again in his mindscape. He decided to seek Hikari out to find out what was wrong. The problem is that you are accustomed with this place, hence as long as you go into a semi-conscious or unconscious state you end up here. How can I work around that? He queried. To avoid that, you will have to try concentrating on something rather than nothing. Try thinking of the wind around you, or your breathing. That usually works, she replied. He then left his mindscape, but not before thanking Hikari. On his return, he noted that it was already past 10 p.m., so he decided to call it quits for the night, and lay down to sleep for the night. At 5 a.m. the following morning, he was awakened by the ringing of his alarm clock and slowly got up. He quickly looked at the training schedule that he had copied down, and was about to begin before Hikari reminded him of the weights that he should be putting on. Donning them, he looked at the manual that accompanied them for instructions. So to increase the weight, all I need to do is pour chakra into it. That doesn't seem too difficult, but the weight is proportional to the amount of chakra poured in. Let's see here. It says that I should start off by pouring 1% of my total chakra into each of the bands. It also says that the average weight per band will be shown on the right band and the percentage of chakra on the left. Well, here goes. With that, he proceeded to carefully pour 1% of his chakra into each of the bands, and then looked at his left band. It showed 5 and the right showed 10, so in total he was now 50 pounds heavier. He was then given the okay to proceed on his schedule by Hikari, and off he went. That's how his training went for the next 2 days. He followed it strictly, and at the end of the first day he could walk halfway up a tree before falling back down. When he had questioned Hikari about it, she had informed him that even if she had released suppression seals on his chakra control, she had also released the ones on his chakra, therefore he would have to work even harder to get his chakra under control. After finding this out, he had thrown himself wholeheartedly into his training. As the day came to a close, he was reminded by Hikari that he had no study material at home, so he made a detour to the library on his way and used a henge to enter, something that he had never thought of before. As he made his way to the shinobi section of the library, he found many interesting books on history, weapons, and even physics and mathematics. In the end, he borrowed 5 of the 7 books that he had removed from the shelves and would have to return them in 2 weeks' time. Perfect, he thought, just enough time for me to complete them. He quickly made his way home, and after having some dinner, he began reading one of the books titled Shinobi Tactics 101. After reading for about half an hour, he suddenly thought, now would be a great time to test out my Kage Bunshin. So he made 4 of them and promptly set them on the remaining books that he had. 2 hours later, he had finished the books and dispelled one of the clones. After taking a short amount of time to sort out the information as he received it, he jumped up while screaming out "Yada!" It worked while doing a goofy dance with one of his clones. He urgently dispelled the remaining clones and was treated to a headache the size of the Hokage monument. He almost screamed out in pain, but just endured it. A short while later he went to bed for the night. The second day was almost an exact replica of the first, except this time he got to the top of the tree but could only stay there for a few seconds before falling off. He also returned the books that he borrowed the day before and took 5 books again. This time he wanted to meditate while his clones handled the studying. On arriving home, he showered, had dinner, and then set his clone up to studying while he once again tried meditating. Sitting in the lotus position, the thought back to what Hikari had told him and tried focusing on taking deep, steady breaths of air. To him, the first few minutes passed by without incident. However, in reality over an hour had gone by. A while later he began to feel a calm descend upon him that he had never known before, but before he could stay that way, he was disturbed by a clone suddenly dispersing itself. When he opened his eyes, he noticed that the other clones were staring at him open-mouthed with their eyes wide. When he asked what happened, one of them just dispelled to give him the information. He was startled to say the least by the information that he received. While he was meditating, a steady stream of chakra was being expelled from his body, and it seemed that it had just been hovering over him like a big bonfire. The only reasoning that he could come up with was that his chakra control needed more work, so he decided to work even harder on his control the following day. He woke up on the 3rd day of his training and quickly went through his early morning exercise before breakfast. After his run, he decided to have a chat with Hikari. "Hey Hikari." "Yes?" she asked. "Do you have any idea why I don't feel the effects of the weights anymore?" "Your body is simply adjusting," she replied. "In that case, I guess I'd better increase them again, huh?" "Yes," she replied. With that said, he began to pump some more chakra into the weights until he felt himself being pushed to the floor. When he looked at the left band, he noticed that it showed, while the right showed 25. Finally finishing his breakfast, he continued to do his morning tasks as he headed to training area 37 where he trained until noon. He then headed out to lunch and ordered takeout. While walking, he ate a quick lunch and was en route to the Higurashi Shinobi store where he was supposed to pick up his clothing today. On entering, he noticed Hiroshi at the counter and said, "Konnichiwa, Hiroshi-san. How's the store today?" The older man smiled and said, "It's okay so far. I'm guessing that you are here to pick up your order from a couple of days ago." "Hi," replied the young man. "Well then, it's all packed up and ready for delivery," responded Hiroshi. "Arigatou gozaimasu, Hiroshi-san," said Naruto with a short bow. "No problem, Naruto. Just ensure when you're Hokage you inform the ninjas that this was where you got your equipment," he said jokingly. "Believe it," said Naruto. With that, he picked up his clothing and was about to leave, but then turned and said to Hiroshi, "Hiroshi-san, could you say hi to Tenten-san for me, please?" "No problem, son," the man replied with a small smile. With that, Naruto turned around and headed home to drop off his purchases, then went back to Training Ground 37 to continue his training. 1 week had passed since Naruto had picked up his gear from the Higurashi Shinobi store, and in his opinion, his training was going great. Already he could see some of the result of his training. After the first week, he could run the 10 laps around Konoha with his weights on in less than 45 minutes, and he had now increased his strength and stamina workout by 4. Chakra control was another area that had seen significant improvement. He had completed the tree climbing exercise on the 3rd day, and mastered it on the 4th. From then he would make about 50 Kage Bunshin at the start of every training session to train his tree climbing, while he moved on to water walking, which he learnt and mastered by the 9th day of training. He used the same method as he did with the tree climbing, as he was of the firm conviction that using Kage Bunshin to learn something new other than reading was cheating. And the only reason he used it in reading was because he was cheated of his opportunity at the academy in his early years. His weight training was going well and was now feeding 17% of his total chakra into the weights. The weights average out at 40 pounds per piece. In his opinion, one of the best features of the weights was that all it took to disable them was a mental command. It was very effective. Above all of the others, however, his studies were what excelled the most. Having never experienced the wonders of knowledge at a younger age, he threw himself into it, and with his photographic memory, his task was just made easier. His meditation also progressed well, as he was now able to control his chakra while meditating at an adequate level. Hikari had not been silent the entire time. Through it all, she encouraged him to do his best and try as hard as he could. To him, her support was invaluable. All in all, if he had to, he would sum up the last few days as perfect, except for one incident that he would just call plain weird. Plus flashback plus. He had been heading home today a little later than usual, as he had just increased his weights that morning, so his movements were a bit more sluggish. On his way, he decided to take a shortcut that passed through Training Ground 17. While passing, he heard a voice counting. Curious, he walked towards the voice and noticed it was a young male wearing a green bodysuit that was kicking a training log. Not wanting to disturb, he stood for a while until the young man completed his exercise, stopping at 1,000. "Wow, not even I'm that crazy," thought Naruto. "You can come out now," said the teenager. Naruto obeyed and looked at the young man. The first thing he noticed was his eyebrows. Had he met him 2 weeks earlier, that might have been the first thing that he would point out. However, having learned, he approached the situation differently. "Gomen, I saw you training and couldn't help but admire your determination. The name's Naruto, by the way." "Naruto Uzumaki," said Naruto while extending his hand. "I am the beautiful green beast of Konoha," Rock Lee stated Lee overenthusiastically. If Naruto had thought he was strange at first, he now considered him bizarre. "So what bring you here?" Naruto-kun asked Lee politely. "Oh, I just finished training," replied Naruto. Before he got a chance to add anything more, Lee stood up with fire burning in his eyes while shouting out, "Wyosuke Gai-sensei would be so proud of you, to be training to fan your flames of youth at such an hour of the night. To commemorate this moment, let us run around Konoha's walls 100 times, and if we cannot do that, let us climb up and down the Hokage monument 100 times, and if we cannot do that, then..." At that point, Naruto cut him off. "How about we just get to know each other?" he asked. "Yash, Naruto-kun, your flames of youth burn brightly. Like you said, let us introduce ourselves." Plus flashback and plus. And thus began a very strange, to say the least, friendship. That day, the two of them exchanged stories and found that they were alike in more ways than one, both of them being the dead last or their respective classes, and both having something to prove to the villagers of Konoha. For Lee, it was to prove that someone can become a great ninja through the use of taijutsu only, as he could not use chakra, whereas for Naruto, it was to not only have the villagers' respect, but to earn it, just like he did with everything else in his life. After that day, they would often be seen in the morning doing laps around the village. To Naruto, it was a challenge to catch up to Lee, and to Lee it was an opportunity to meet with another person who believed in the true value of hard work and the benefits that it reaped. Naruto continued working himself to the ground, and by the end of the 2-week period, was on a level that most academy graduates could not compete with. He was very proud of his work. Hikari was also proud of him, as she had increased his senses to their full capability during the 2-week period, and the most he ever did was to flinch. He only hoped that when his parents looked down on him, they smiled at him and his achievements. To him, that was more important than anyone else's opinion of him. Meeting the team. The 2-week waiting period was finally over, and most of the academy graduates were running about doing various things. A shrill ring was heard, and the students all headed to the entrance of their classrooms to take roll call. Iruka had been having a bad day. No, bad would not justice to the situations he had been exposed to over the last few hours. To start things off, he had woken up extremely late, as he had been depending on his alarm clock to awaken him since he had been up late last night reviewing and finalizing the teams together with the Hokage. If that had been the end of it, he would be okay, but no, Kami just had to decide to punish him for all of his bad deeds today. When he went to take a shower, nothing flowed out of the pipe, not even a trickle of water. Kami, he hated it when that happened. So armed with a pipe wrench and screwdriver, he headed to his basement to see what the problem was. 30 minutes later, he came back up tired, but happy as the water seemed to be working again. He smiled as he entered the bath for the second time that day, only to find out that the hot water was out when he opened the pipe yet again. So with as much haste as he could, he took a bath and came out teeth chattering like he was trying to send a message in Morse code. He had quickly made his way to the academy to try and avoid disaster, but on arriving he found out that 2 of the 7 teachers were absent. It seemed like today was definitely not a good day for him, he decided, as he sat down at his desk in room 201 with both his hands on his head. This was the scene that many of the shinobi in training were greeted with, and irritated Iruka at the start of the day, though most of them seemed oblivious to his current state of distress. Naruto had been in conversation with Hikari during the 2-week vacation that he had. They had constantly been planning things that he could use for his training and had been working on having him keep his emotions in check better. One look at the old Naruto, as they had dubbed him before his transformation, would have given away everything to the world. Now, he schooled his features all of the time. No longer would he be known as the ramen-obsessed, careless, and not to mention blonde-haired freak. It's not that he was ashamed of his blonde hair, quite the opposite in fact. It was simply because he had reminisced on his life with Hikari, and they had come to the conclusion that he used to seek attention in the wrong manner. No longer would he prank people uselessly. He wouldn't stop, mind you, just not without the aim of exposing some weakness to someone. After seeing what a balanced meal did for him in the first week, he had decided to continue in a similar fashion, and had studied many books detailing different aspects of the culinary arts. He had also taken up a hobby that he enjoyed with Hikari, playing Shugi in his mindscape. He had been the one to suggest it, and had taken to it quite well. After losing to Hikari 30-2, he chose to read up on some more strategy books that were at the library detailing the first and second great shinobi wars among others to up his skills. The results were instantaneous. Although he didn't win the next game they played, because no amount of studying can make up for thousands of years of experience, he did put up a good fight, and Hikari had to actually apply herself to win. There were even a few times where she was so cornered that they ended up spending more time than anticipated on strategy. At present, the score stood at 48-9, an admirable feat that he was proud of. She had suggested that he buy a board and have a game with one of the members of the Nara clan, as they were renowned as some of the best strategists. He readily agreed, knowing their history. As Naruto made his way to the academy along the rooftops, he thought back to an interesting meeting that he had with the Sandaime earlier that day. Flashback. The Sandaime had summoned him to his office that morning, wanting to inquire as to how his training was going. He had quickly given him an explanation of what he had learned, from who was his father, to the training schedule that he was currently following. The Sandaime was shocked by the information and informed him that he should not inform too many people who his parents were because of the number of enemies that he had both inside and outside of Konoha. As he was about to exit the Hokage's office, his voice was heard saying, "I've got you now, old man, that hat will be mine today," while waving a blunted kunai in the air. The Hokage sighed exasperatedly while saying Konohamaru this had to be the 7th time this week that he had tried to attack him. It seemed that the attacks were getting worse as of late. 5 steps away the Hokage's desk, the kid's face was suddenly reintroduced to the floor. He clumsily stood up while brushing himself off and turned to face Naruto while pointing an accusing finger at him, and said, You're the one who tripped me. Say you're sorry." Naruto looked at him, then thought of teaching him a lesson, but decided against it. He simply said you tripped over your own feet, kid, before turning away. Konohamaru, not one to usually be denied attention or respect, shouted, "Hey, don't you know who I am? I'm Konohamaru Sarutobi, the Hokage's grandson. Say you're sorry or face his wrath." Naruto simply looked him in the eye while sparing a glance at the Hokage before slamming his fist into the kid's head lightly and said, "I don't care if you're his grandmother." With that done, he stood up and said later Aji-san while walking away. At the door stood Konohamaru's sensei Ebisu, staring open-mouthed at what the demon brat had done to the Hokage's grandson. He quickly began apologizing to the honorable grandson as he referred to Konohamaru, that the other brat didn't know his place, and that he was his best shortcut to becoming Hokage. While he was talking, he failed to notice Konohamaru escape and follow Naruto. Afterwards, the two had spent some time together having fun until Konohamaru started calling Naruto boss. Not being accustomed to such respect, he simply told him to call him bro instead. They had talked for some more time, with Naruto convincing Konohamaru to stop attacking his grandfather and concentrate on training, and also convincing Naruto to teach him the Oryoku no Jutsu, which they ended up using on Ebisu. Before parting company, the two shared their dreams of becoming Hokage for different reasons, and Naruto set Konohamaru on the right path, the one without shortcuts. Plus flashback and plus. He smiled at the memory, and was at the academy in a short amount of time. Quickly slipping through the window, he surveyed the classroom and noticed an empty seat next to Shino, which he took. After a quick nod to the bug user, he pulled out a book on seals from his equipment pouch and continued reading. Since finding out the way that his dad stored information for him, he had been highly intrigued by them and had taken to reading up on them. He was currently reading up on the theory of basic seals. A few minutes passed by with little to no activity until two distinct shouts were heard of. "I win." Looking up from his reading, he noticed it was Sakura and Ino quarreling about who arrived first, and thus had the right to sit next to Sasuke. "I got here first, Ino pig," shouted Sakura. "No way, forehead girl, the weight that you've got in that forehead of yours slowed you down," replied an irate Ino. "You talking to me, piggy?" said Sakura with steam coming out of her ears. "And what if I am forehead?" replied Ino. Naruto simply blocked out the rest of their conversation since he was beginning to get irritated. Had it been 3 weeks ago, he would have probably been pestering Sakura and asking her out on a date. However, it wasn't, and having made up for lost time, he now understood that even if Sakura was pretty, from the way she treated him, he was nothing more than a stepping stone for her. Hence the reason he had stopped actively pursuing her, something that Hikari had encouraged since he was focusing on becoming a better shinobi. In the end, either of the girls got the chance to sit next to Sasuke, as someone else was already sitting there, something that both of them failed to notice. A few minutes after the argument, their teacher showed up, greeted them, and began roll call. Shino Abirame, present. Satoshi Frenche, present. The list continued on until he reached the final name. Naruto Uzumaki. Immediately, mumbling broke out in the classroom as many of them wondered what Naruto's name was doing on the list. But before any of them could question their sensei, a voice spoke up from the back. "Present." At this, most of the students turned back to find the source of the voice and saw someone decked in a black A&BU style pants, a dark red muscle shirt with a fishnet shirt over it, as well as bandage wrappings going down from his legs to a pair of black ninja sandals. He also had a pair of fingerless gloves with the leaf insignia engraved near the knuckles. His hyatate was placed on his forehead and stopped his blonde locks from covering his face as they stuck out at odd angles. To complete his look, a small smile graced his lips as Naruto stared at the rest of the class, openly gaping at him. A few of the girls even blushed after looking at him for some time. None of them, however, compared to Iruka as he stared eyes wide and mouth open at the transformed Naruto. The clipboard that he had in his hand had long since fallen to the floor when he saw Naruto. After composing himself, he couldn't help but smile warmly towards his favorite student as he picked up his clipboard and marked Naruto as present. Before he could continue on with his class, Sakura raised her hand and asked a question that had been on her mind for some time now. "Now, Iruka-sensei," she began, "how come that idiot Naruto is here right now? I thought this class was for graduates only," she said, voicing the general opinion of most of her classmates. Iruka glared at her and replied he is here because he passed an alternate graduation exam that was considerably harder than the normal one. It would do you good to remember that. He finished off with a smile as he remembered the way that Naruto stood up for him. Continuing on, he said, "You all are now shinobi, and as shinobi, you are to protect your village and teammates to the best of your ability. The will of fire that our villages teaches so much about is burning brightly in each of you, and you should never allow that fire to die. As you go into the world doing various missions for the village, you should be proud of whom you represent, the Hidden Leaf Village. Though at times they may be more than you can bear and the struggles may prove difficult, wear your hiatates proudly as you show the world the power of the hidden leaf. Remember, though the tree that is Konoha may grow old, its roots will always be there as you are right now, and like a phoenix will rise up from the ashes, stronger than ever before. At the end, not a single student was asleep or inattentive. They had never thought that their sensei could say anything with such a passion. The sensation that they felt was exhilarating. Even the Jounin senseis at the Hokage Tower, who had been looking at their prospective students, were stunned by the speech that Irika had given. Now for the team assignments, said Irika. Though you may not know, during your time as genin, you will be placed on 3-man teams. The people that you are teamed up with as genin may remain with you until you become jounin and even after. Hence it is good for you to have great relationships with your teammates. Moving along, Team 1 consists of Satoshi Frenchay, Brangle Phineas, and Kayla John. Your jounin sensei will be Hate Geku. Team 2. This continued until he reached Team 7. Team 7, Sakura Harino, Sasuke Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki under Kakashi Hatake. Team 8, Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame under Kurenai Yuhi. Team 9 is still in circulation from last year. Team 10, Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Chugi Akimichi under Saratobi Asuma. Finally finished with the team assignment, he placed his pad on the table, then added, "Please wait here for your jounin senseis as they will pick you up." With that he promptly sat down, and like the students waited for the jounin. They didn't have to wait very long as some of the jounin senseis were already on their way. Time passed and different teams went away with their senseis. During that time, Naruto was having a conversation with Hikari about their sensei. "Do you really think it's him?" asked Naruto. "Yes," replied Hikari. "Well, if that's the case, I guess I'd better show him one of my dad's famous kunai, don't you think?" "You could," said Hikari, "but I would recommend waiting for some time to see how he acts before knowing who you are." "Couldn't I give him just a little hint? I mean, if he was my dad's student, then he would surely know how to keep a secret. Not to mention the fact that I could use some more pointers in my training," said Naruto. "It's your choice, Naruto, although that does sound like a good plan," she replied. "Okay," said Naruto, then closed off the mental connection. As he did, he noticed that his team was the only one left in the classroom. Even Irika-sensei had left about an hour ago. When he looked up at the clock on the wall, he noticed that they had been waiting for almost 3 hours and the jounin had yet to arrive. "Is this the best that my sensei can do?" he thought to himself. At that moment, a head poked through the door with gravity-defying silver hair and a face mask covering more than half of his face peered in. He also had his hiatate at an odd angle covering his left eye. At first glance, his whole visage screamed lazy, but on looking again, Naruto noticed that not only was he alert but he seemed to be ready to move at a moment's notice. Kakashi then said, "My first impression of you is you're useless." All of them sweat dropped after that statement, and if you looked closely you could see the tick developing on Sakura's forehead. Naruto's gaze wasn't lost on Kakashi, and when he felt his eye on him he looked up and stared. Only years of battle-honed reflexes didn't cause him to react to what he saw, in his opinion, as a miniature version of the Yondaime Hokage. He was surprised to say the least. He always knew that Naruto was the container for the nine-tailed fox, but to be related to his sensei, that was one possibility that never crossed his mind. True, there was the blonde hair and blue eyes, but to him that's where the similarity stopped, at least that's what he used to think. Now staring at Naruto he saw a few more similarities, like the way he looked when he smiled, or the grin that was on his face whenever he pulled a successful prank. He quickly put those thoughts to the back of his mind as he concentrated on the task at hand, getting to know the team that would most likely be back in the academy in the next 48 hours. After all, he had never passed a single team, so why would he start now? He was broken from his thoughts by Sakura screaming out, "You're late!" with enough force to break a window. Naruto and Kakashi, having expected something like this, had wisely blocked their ears beforehand. Sasuke was not so fortunate. He had to deal with the full brunt of the voice and was now holding his ears while glaring at Sakura. "Gomen, but you see, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way around town," replied Kakashi. All three of the students stared at him incredulously while Sakura screamed out, "Liar." "Anyway, meet me on the roof in 5 minutes," said the Cyclopean ninja while he shunshined to the roof. With that, the three made their way to the roof to meet their sensei. When they arrived, they saw their sensei leaning on the railing while reading some sort of book. He turned to them and said, "Alright, Team 7, how about we introduce ourselves to each other? You know, name, likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams for the future." With that he gestured to Sakura for her to start the introductions. "Ano-sensei, why don't you go first so that you can show us how it's done?" she asked. Whatever, he replied. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I like and dislike a lot of things. I have a lot of hobbies, dreams for the future. After his introduction, they only stared at him like he grew a second head. Now you Pinky, he said while pointing to Sakura. My name is Sakura Haruno. The thing I like, or rather the person I like, is giggling, was heard from her while she peeked at Sasuke. My hobbies again, she looked at Sasuke and giggled. Dreams for the future. At this she looked at Sasuke starry-eyed while blushing furiously. What do you dislike? Asked their sensei. Ino, Pig, and Naruto. She shouted, but at that moment she noticed that not once during the day had Naruto even greeted her or approached her for a date. At that realization she glanced at him, while he stared blankly at her, as if she hadn't even mentioned his name. She felt different from his stare and wanted to wish that the old Naruto was still there. You next, Sunshine, said Kakashi as he pointed to Sasuke, who only HN'd. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, he began. I have few like and even less hobbies as well as a lot of dislikes. My dream, no, more of an ambition, is to avenge my clan by killing a certain man, then to resurrect it. During the introduction, Sakura had been staring at Sasuke starry-eyed again and was thinking, Sasuke-kun is so cool. I wonder if he'll go out on a date with me. Kakashi, however, was thinking more along the line of, so that's the one that Itachi left alive. I hope he doesn't go all crazy on me. Naruto was thinking of whether or not he could actually work effectively in a team with these two people, as one seemed to be a fangirl whilst the other seemed to be very power-hungry. When his turn came up, he said, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki's the name, remember it. My likes are training, learning new things, reading and ramen. My dislikes are people who can't see something for what it is but what they perceive it to be, as well as anyone who doesn't see the true value of hard work. My hobbies include pulling pranks, training and sealing. As for my dreams... At this, he looked up to the sky, then faced the Hokage mountain and said, to gain the respect of all of the village, both civilian and shinobi alike, by becoming a shinobi and one day Hokage, and to make my parents proud of me. He finished it with a content smile and peaceful expression on his face as a light breeze blew across the rooftop, causing his hair to shift position while he stood his ground. All three of the others present were amazed by his introduction. It was almost as if a calm aura surrounded him while he subconsciously spread it out to them, giving them that wonderful feeling. Alas, it was not to last, as Sakura perked up and voiced her opinion. How can you make your parents proud if you're an orphan baka? It's not like they're even there to see you. You're such a dope. No wonder they left. She finished, quite content with herself. Kakashi was taken aback by his student's behavior and was about to comment, but Naruto beat him to the punch. Haruno-san, he began, I would suggest that you not make reference to my parents again, or that may well be your undoing. He finished in a cold, emotionless voice laced with a small amount of killing intent that seemed to frighten her. Sasuke was also shocked by the turn of events. First, Sakura had insulted Naruto's dream and, to add fuel to the fire, blatantly insulted his parents. Now that was uncalled for. Kakashi looked on in anger. Here he was getting ready to drop the bomb on his new team about only 66% of them actually becoming genin, but one of them just had to spoil the mood. He had to admit, had he been in Naruto's situation, he would probably have to be restrained from impaling her with a raikiri. He hastily reprimanded Sakura and continued on with analyzing his students. Thinking of it, he looked over at Naruto and noticed that he seemed to be the calmest of the three males, which surprised him considering the fact that he should be the angry one, and if academy reports were anything to go by, he should have been jumping around angrily. Kakashi decided right there that he would disregard any reports that he obtained, as they were most likely false or outdated. Glancing at him a second time, he managed to notice the tightly guarded anger in his eyes and mentally applauded the boy for such an accomplishment. To Sakura, it was strange. All she had done was repeat what her mother had told her, and they were all angry at her. She had always told her that Naruto would never amount to anything and his parents had abandoned him as a result, that his mere existence was a disgrace to the people of Konoha, so he was an outcast. Was she wrong? Her mother was a member of the Civilian Council of Konoha, so whatever she said was right, right? And what was that feeling that she had gotten when Naruto looked at her with those cold blue eyes, like she should escape if she wanted to survive? Strange. Unknown to her, she was currently a member of a team where all of the males knew what it was like to be an orphan, so speaking to Naruto in such a way struck deep down into the other two. Before the mood could get any worse than it already was, Kakashi stood up and cleared his throat to catch their attention. Well, now that everything is under control, let's continue. Now that you have been assigned a team, we will be meeting tomorrow for a special bonding activity that only the four of us will be taking part in. Survival training, said Kakashi. Survival training? Repeated Sakura. Yes, this test will determine whether or not you become true genin, or will be sent back to the academy. Kakashi could hardly hold back his smile as he saw the shocked looks on Sakura's and Sasuke's faces. Naruto, however, just looked on with an interested expression. So he continued. You see, out of the 10 genin teams, only 3 of them will move on to be genin. This test has a 66% failure rate, and all failures will be sent back to the academy. So you will have to meet me tomorrow at Training Ground 7 at 7 a.m. to undergo your test. With that, he was about to leave but turned back and said, Oh, and if I were you, I wouldn't eat breakfast unless you want to throw up. He then turned around, then waved goodbye before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. The rest of the team stayed put for a while before Naruto stood up and said, Uchiha-san, Haruno-san, you would do well to disregard his advice on eating breakfast. With that said, he turned and walked away to his usual training area. Sakura quickly turned to Sasuke and said, Sasuke-kun, would you like? She was immediately cut off by Sasuke cutting her off by saying, If I ever hear you disrespect Naruto in such a way again, I will personally deal with you. You know nothing of living half your life as an orphan, much less your entire life. You grew up with both your parents, yet you disrespect someone else's. What would you do if you were in his position, huh? Tell me. Sasuke didn't know what caused him to lose his cool like that, but in his opinion, she deserved it, especially when he thought of that one time after he had lost his family. He was all alone sitting at the pier when Naruto passed by. He was very downcast that day, but when he saw Naruto, no words were exchanged, but his mood lifted gradually. It was like there was that unspoken bond between them that they developed. Almost like brothers, they would try to outdo the other and be at each other's necks just for the fun of it. And to see Sakura make fun of Naruto in such a way made him bristle with rage, especially when he was an orphan too. You should think before speaking, Sakura, it'll help us in the long run. With that said, he turned away and walked home. Kakashi stood in the trees nearby listening to his new team talk amongst themselves. He thought maybe they will be the first team to pass my test. With that thought, he left the area with a quick shunshin. Naruto woke up a little earlier than usual to do his morning exercises, which he had been increasing steadily. Upon completion, he had a healthy breakfast, then started to Training Ground 7. As Naruto made his way to Training Ground 7, he thought of his team, or what would be his team if they passed their sensei's test. Sasuke is a very capable shinobi, and can hold his own against all of our classmates, seeing as he was the rookie of the year of our class. Sakura, on the other hand, is an almost hopeless case unless she gets rid of that fangirl mentality. As far as I could tell, she has about 30 times less chakra than me and 7 times less than Sasuke. The books and scrolls that I read from the library say that persons like this have the potential to become very efficient medic means, since they often have a high level of chakra control. Guess I'll tell that to Kakashi-sensei sometime later on. He stopped his trend of thought when he arrived at the designated training ground 10 minutes before the appointed time. While waiting for his teammates to arrive, he entered a light meditative stance and began conversing with Hikari. Hikari, you there? Where else would I be? She responded in an amused tone. Well, I was thinking, do you think that using one of my dad's kunai today would be a good idea? I mean, I hardly know the guy. There's only one way to know Naruto, and that is to test him. So during that test of yours, just check his reaction to you when he notices the kunai. Okay, Hikari, thanks for the advice. No problem, Naruto. With that, he stopped meditating and opened his eyes to find his 2 teammates, Sakura and Sasuke, staring at him. Quickly checking the time, he noticed that it was the scheduled time for their team meeting. Haruno-san, Uchiha-san, he said. HN, replied Sasuke while Sakura waved a bit, put out that Naruto addressed them by their surnames. Would you like to join me while I do some training? He asked. It seems that our sensei may be late, if yesterday was any indication. The 2 others didn't reply, so he left them and went over to a clearing and created about 10 clones. He then ordered them to practice the kunai balancing exercise to further refine his chakra control, having mastered both tree and water walking to a sufficient degree. While the clones were practicing chakra control, he approached a nearby tree and began a series of kicks and punches with each leg and hand in intervals of 200. Unknown to him, both his teammates were looking at him, and were amazed that the dead last of their class was actually training. Although they had seen his new clothing, they just thought it was a fluke and began a revaluation of their teammate. Neither of them, however, took up his offer for training with him. This was the scene that Kakashi was greeted with as he suddenly poofed into the clearing 2.5 hours later with his regular reading material in hand. Ika paradise. Yo, he said. Without warning, Sakura turned towards him and screamed out, "You're late." Kakashi had to stick his pinky into his ear to clear his auditory canal. Well, you see, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way to the training ground, replied a near-deaf Kakashi. Liar! Shouted Sakura while Sasuke settled for a death glare to their sensei. Naruto, on the other hand, simply dispelled his shadow clones. The training that Naruto had been doing was not lost on Kakashi, as he had seen him training from the moment he entered the clearing. So it seems that he learned the secret of the Kage Bunshin, something that not even I can use to the fullest, thought Kakashi with a smile. When Naruto finally arrived, Kakashi began the explanation of their survival training. Okay team, he began. Today we will be doing a test that will determine whether or not you become genin. At this, Sakura and Sasuke visibly stiffened while Naruto's looked on. After all, he had been expecting this for the wealth of knowledge he acquired. In my hand I have 2 bells. Now you are going to try to take these bells by any means necessary. Come at me with the intent to kill, or you won't make it. Whoever does not have a bell by noon will not have any lunch, and will be sent back to the academy. He finished with a grave voice. Kakashi then removed an alarm clock and set it for noon, then placed it on a tree stump. After soaking in everything, Sakura spoke up. But sensei, there are only 2 bells and won't we hurt you? Yes, Sakura, he replied, at least one of you will be sent back to the academy. But I doubt you could even touch me. Sakura and Sasuke paled while Naruto's eyes were closed tightly as if in deep concentration. With that said, Kakashi said, when I say go, you will begin? As soon as he completed that statement, a kunai flew towards him at an incredible speed, but he simply caught it as if it was nothing. Naruto, I didn't say go. With that he shouted go. Immediately, all 3 of the students immediately vanished from the clearing, leaving Kakashi to his own devices. He quickly pulled out his favorite reading material and walked into the tree-shaded area while jingling the bell. In another part of the forest, Naruto stood on a branch while silently processing all of the information that he had at his disposal. Okay, let's see, there are only 2 bells and he wants us to try and get one, while whoever gets a bell passes while the one who doesn't fails and goes back to the academy. Something's not right. Throughout all of my studies, teams were always made up of at least 4 members, the team leader and his 3 subordinates. I also found out that Konoha is basically founded on teamwork, so why does sensei say that one of us will fail? Unless, but of course, I've got to find the others, thought Naruto. With that in mind, he made 1 Kage Bunshin and the 2 headed to Sakura and Sasuke. Meanwhile, Sasuke had been thinking of the test and thought, no matter what, it might be better if I take both bells and have Kakashi-sensei all to myself. I'll be 1 step closer to killing my brother and avenging my clan. He was about to head out but stopped short when Naruto appeared next to him and began speaking. Uchiha-san, it would be best if we try working together to get the bells from Kakashi-sensei. We are teammates after all. Sasuke simply turned his head away from Naruto in an arrogant manner and said with an air of finality. As if me and Uchiha would work with a dead last like you. Just don't get in my way, idiot. With that he turned around and headed towards Kakashi, not sparing Naruto a second glance. It was at that moment that his clone dispelled itself, and he found Sakura's response to his proposal. Haruno-san, we should team up and meet with Uchiha-san to work together to try and take the bells from our sensei, said clone Naruto. Why would I work with a baka like you when Sasuke-kun can do it by himself? Asked Sakura. If that's the case, then how will you get a bell? Asked Naruto. Realization dawned on her, and she darted away while saying that she shouldn't be spending time with a dead last while her Sasuke-kun had the bells. Clone Naruto just shook its head and dispelled. Which brings Naruto to the situation that he is in right now. He could have simply left them to themselves and work alone, thereby saving some time. But he didn't and lost valuable time. Well, he thought to himself, at least I tried. Now to find Kakashi-sensei. With that, he blurred from the area he was and began setting a few traps in an area. Once finished, he headed to where Kakashi was walking about idly. Well, began Kakashi, it seems like you would like to finish what your teammates started. Naruto simply sighed and took a basic stance while monitoring Kakashi. Lesson 1, Taijutsu, said Kakashi. As soon as he finished saying that, he slowly reached into his equipment pouch and searched for something. In the meantime, Naruto, though calm on the outside, was frantic as he thought. I thought he said taijutsu, so what is he doing going for a weapon? His thoughts were interrupted when his sensei's hand came from his pouch, revealing an oddly familiar orange book labeled Ika Ika Paradise. Naruto's face turned white, before contorting into a scowl. His sensei wasn't even taking him seriously. He lifted a hand and pointed his finger at Kakashi and said, Kakashi-sensei, Is it wise to be reading in the middle of a fight? Against you, it won't be a problem, he said dismissively. Whatever you say, Ero-sensei, replied Naruto with a smirk. The only response he got from Kakashi was a small fit of giggles. Quickly taking advantage of the distraction, he rushed Kakashi and attempted to punch him in the chest, only to miss as he dodged lazily while reading his book. Naruto continued on with a flurry of kicks and punches, but failed to land a single hit. Kakashi, on the other hand, was quite impressed with Naruto's speed. Naruto was quickly growing frustrated, and when he caught on to what Kakashi was doing, he took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Analyzing the situation, he noticed that there was almost no chance of him getting one of the bells without distracting Kakashi further, so he slowly dragged him to the area where his traps were set. As soon as they entered the clearing, he jumped back and performed a quick flip while sending a kunai near one of the bushes. Immediately a volley of kunai flew towards Kakashi, who did a back flip to escape, but landed right where Naruto wanted him. As soon as he landed, another barrage of weapons was on him and did a quick kawarimi to escape. Nice, thought Kakashi as he saw what Naruto had been planning all along. But not good enough, as he headed to when Naruto was with a kunai in hand, his Ika long since forgotten. As he entered the area, he saw Naruto turn around slowly before trying to get away, but the kunai was quicker and pierced his knee and left him dragging himself along the floor. He turned and faced Kakashi and held onto him. When he latched onto him, he only said one word. Boom. Kakashi's visible eye widened when he heard that word, as well as the telltale signs of an exploding tag being detonated. A quick shunshin was what saved him. As soon as he landed, a volley of shuriken once again headed his way, and this time, he pushed chakra in his legs and jumped to avoid it. Once in the air, he thought, "Okay, I'm home free," only to change that opinion when he heard a grunt from above. Quickly turning around, he saw Naruto with a smile on his face as he sent a kunai towards him while running through a few hand seals and shouting kunai kage bunshin no jutsu. Once again, Kakashi was at a loss for words. His blonde-haired student had surprised him yet again by thinking not only steps ahead, but luring him into a trap that he had fallen for. Quite a feat considering who he was. Once Kakashi landed, he began deflecting kunai as quickly as he could while his student landed with grace that would be associated with an angel. Upon further inspection, Kakashi's eye widened and his eyebrow rose. His mouth was also hanging open in shock but could not be seen because of his mask. The kunais that were on the floor were none other than the three-pronged kunais that his sensei, the Yondaime, used for his famous Hiraishin no Jutsu. How had Naruto come across them? And did he learn the Hiraishin? While these questions were running through Kakashi's mind, Naruto was busy executing his next move with a smile on his face. He quickly called out the name of his next move, and this caused Kakashi to pale when he heard it. Hiraishin no Jutsu, he shouted. While mentally he said chakra weights ki. He suddenly felt a heck of a lot lighter. He had increased his weights recently, as was still getting used to them, although the chakra storage was now at 20%. Naruto was actually bluffing here. There was no way he could use the Hiraishin. He did try, but he didn't get anywhere, and ended up knocking himself out, so decided to focus on his other training. But it's not like Kakashi knew this, and he'd achieved what he planned. Under normal circumstances, the sudden rush of chakra would have alerted Kakashi that something was up and he would have been able to put up a defense. However, after seeing his sensei's kunai, and hearing a 12-year-old kid shout out the name of his famous Hiraishin, almost all of his senses were dulled and he was like a sitting duck. Naruto, taking advantage of Kakashi's lapse in concentration, alerted three of his Kage Bunshin that the main part of their plan was now in effect, and the four quickly dashed off. One appeared behind him and the adult felt a hand brush up against him. The Jounin was startled, to say the least. He'd been fooled so easily by someone who was the dead last of his academy class 2 weeks ago. He managed to regain some equilibrium when a punch was thrown at him, and blocked it. The real Naruto picked up the only original Hiraishin kunai and headed towards the forest. After ensuring that he was far enough from their sensei, he released the jutsu holding the kunai as well as his Kage Bunshin and continued on his destination. He had one of the bells, and all it took was a bit of deception on his part. On his way, he suddenly heard something that sounded like loud laughter and chuckled as he thought, "I knew I'd get you, sensei. That's what you get for underestimating a prankster who's a shinobi and for reading those dirty books." As he neared his destination, he pocketed the bell that he had taken and entered a clearing where he saw Sasuke's head sticking out of the ground. He had to stifle the laugh that was threatening to come out when he saw him. He just settled for taunting him a bit. "Well, Uchiha-san, it would seem that you are in need of that help you refused earlier." Sasuke tried to turn to look at him but was stuck and settled for a grunt while saying, "Yeah, whatever." Naruto then helped him out of his position, and the two proceeded to find Sakura, who they found a few moments later lying down with a dazed look. "Genjutsu," said Sasuke. It was true, she had fallen prey to Kakashi's Mega Narakumi no Jutsu and was terrified to see a bloodied Sasuke with kunai sticking out of him, and had passed out. They quickly waked her and set up a plan to get the bells after Sasuke told Sakura that Naruto was right. They would do better working together against the Jounin. They then set out a plan and searched for their sensei as there was only 10 minutes to go till noon. A few minutes passed and they soon found their sensei, resting against a tree with his head down. As soon as they were about to spring into action, a shrill ringing was heard which indicated the end of their time. They all stood next to each other with their teacher in front of them. Nothing could be gained from trying to read his facial expression as it was blank. They all looked at each other for a few moments until Kakashi decided to break the silence. Well, it looks like only one of you will be going back to the academy. At this, Sakura and Sasuke both let go of the breath that they didn't even know they were holding. Naruto simply stared on, waiting for the rest of the evaluation. Before they could venture further in their thoughts, he continued. Naruto, you will be going back to the academy. Naruto could have sworn he heard something akin to "do" being whispered, but he let it pass. Sakura, on the other hand, was daydreaming about her and Sasuke being on the same team and true love prevailing. The rest of you, continued Kakashi, should quit being ninjas forever. This shocked all of the students, including Naruto, considering the angry tone that their sensei had used. He went on. Sasuke, you never even looked out to help one of your teammates, and tried to attack me on your own. Do you really think you can take me on? A Jounin? Even if you do have one or two good ninjutsu, you have nothing else but arrogance and pride that will eventually be your downfall if you don't attempt to change. Do you think I don't know that Naruto approached you for help? Yet you turned him down. Sasuke looked like he could kill the Jounin for insulting him like this and was about to go in motion before he continued again. Sakura, what am I to do with you? You reacted even worse than Sasuke to Naruto's request for help by turning him down and calling him an idiot while you chased the love of your life. If you think that Sasuke's always going to be your knight in shining armor, then you're sadly mistaken. Those fangirl tendencies are what will get you killed on the battlefield. That's why you should quit being ninja. Sakura had a solemn look on her face after his final sentence, and he visibly calmed down, then continued. Naruto. Said person perked up at the mention of his name and looked at his sensei while the two others were curious and wanted to know what their idiot teammate had been up to before he came to them. Like I said, Naruto will be the only one sent back to the academy. Not only did he figure out the hidden meaning of the test, but he also attempted to share with his teammates, who harshly rejected him. Not only that, he was the only one who was able to get a bell from me. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened at that revelation and then looked at Naruto, expecting him to be jumping up and down while rejoicing for the world to hear, but he was sitting calmly against a tree. For all intents and purposes, he should have been able to be a genin, but because of your actions he can't. Take a look at this, he continued. Upon this is all the names of the great men and women who gave their lives for Konoha while protecting it in one way or another. Remember, those who break the rules are considered as trash, but those who abandon their comrades are even worse than trash. With that, he stopped talking and faced Naruto. I'm going to give Naruto a chance to save at least one of you. He will decide who passes or fails by giving them the additional bell. Kakashi tossed the remaining bell to Naruto, whom caught it, then looked at both his teammates, and saw the look in their eyes. They each seemed to be pleading silently to him to give them the bell. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out both bells. He then sent one each to both Sakura and Sasuke while saying, You can both keep the bells. I don't want to be on a team where one teammate would probably kill me to impress the other, and the other wouldn't care even if the rest of his team died. Might be better spending another year at the academy if this is what I have to look forward to. He was about to leave but was stopped by a hand on his shoulder which belonged to Sasuke. He said, You know, I thought you were just going to give it to me cause I'm the last Uchiha. If that's your reason for it, then it's me that should be spending some more time at the academy, not you. While extending his hand to Naruto to give him the bell he had thrown him earlier, Sakura also stepped forward with an outstretched hand and continued. If we had listened to you from the start, we might have been able to make a great team. Unfortunately, like Sasuke said, we are the ones who need to be sent back to the academy, not you, so here you go. She said while throwing the bell towards him. Thought Kakashi, looks like they're already turning out to be a great team. If that's the case, then we'll all go back, said Naruto, hoping that what he wanted to accomplish had been done. Sneaking a peek at his sensei, he noticed that he seemed to be smiling if his eye was any indication. Kakashi on the other hand eyed him and saw him looking at him and thought that Naruto may have caught on to what he was trying to do and simply went along with it. Is that your decision? He asked, his voice devoid of any emotion. Hi, the three replied in perfect synchronization. If that's the case, you all pass, he said while I smiling at them. Sakura and Sasuke seemed a little confused at first and looked at their sensei. He in turn looked at Naruto as if beckoning him to explain to them, which he did. In the end, they all seemed happy with the results, while Sakura thought maybe he isn't an idiot as we always call him. Sasuke was also having similar thoughts but were interrupted by their sensei saying, "As of tomorrow, Team 7 will be on active duty and I expect you to do things to the best of your ability. Meet me here tomorrow at 7 a.m. With that, he turned around and was about to leave before he said, "Oh, and Naruto, I'll be visiting you a bit later on to discuss some stuff, okay?" Ja-eni, and he was gone in a puff of smoke. The Hokage Tower was abuzz with activity as the Jounin who had volunteered to be senseis stood together conversing about one thing or another. A few others had also joined them to find the results of their genin tests, and were chatting with each other to get the information. All chatter ceased as the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, stepped into the room. After taking a long drag from his pipe, he began speaking. "I trust that everyone is here?" Someone was about to answer, but then a poof of smoke alerted them to the presence of someone entering the room. All heads turned to the new presence to find Kakashi with his regular reading material in one hand and the other waving in greeting. "Yo," he said. "Continuing on," said Sarutobi, "could we please continue with the meeting?" Although it was a question, there was no mistaking the commanding tone of voice that he used. "We'll begin with Team 1. The sensei for Team 1 stepped forward and said, "Team 1 failed, sir. They didn't have the necessary skills to become shinobi." At this, Sarutobi nodded his head, and they proceeded to the remaining Jounin. All of Teams 2 through 6 also failed the Jounin instructor's test. When it came to Team 7, Kakashi lazily lifted his head and said, "Team 7 consisting of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki passes." At this, many eyes widened and whispering broke out among the Jounin, as it was well known among the Jounin that Kakashi had never once passed a genin team since his time as a Jounin. One voice arose among all the others saying, "Yash, Kakashi, my eternal rival, your youthfulness knows no bounds. You have finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel. To celebrate your youthfulness and fan our flames of youth, let's run around Konoha's wall 500 times and then climb the Hokage mountain with one hand 100 times." And this was said by the self-proclaimed Azure Beast of Konoha, Mato Guy. The rest of it was stopped by Kakashi asking, You say something, Guy?" He stopped suddenly mid-rant and told Kakashi of his hip and skillful, not to mention youthful ways. The Hokage, a bit tired of Guy, was a bit curious and silently asked Kakashi to proceed before Guy could get any further with his rant. "At first I was sure that the team would fail, but in the end they proved me wrong." Someone in the crowd said, "I'm sure it was the Uchiha who carried the team." "Actually, no," replied Kakashi. "Left to Sasuke, the team would have failed. The same could be said for Sakura. However," at this he looked directly at the Sandaime, "Naruto Uzumaki was the one who pulled his team through with quick thinking and incredible skill that seemed way beyond what he was taught the academy." The same person from before said, as if that good-for-nothing demon can do nothing but destroy people. He was immediately silenced by an elbow to the stomach courtesy of Kakashi, whom only the Hokage, Guy, and 3 others had seen him move. He then said to the Jounin, "If I hear you say that, refer to my student as such one more time. Ibiki and Enko will be having some fun with you later today. Understand?" The Jounin could only nod his head in the positive, as he didn't trust his voice at the moment. The Hokage raised his hand as if to calm down the others and asked the others to continue, who gave their reports. In the end, only 2 more teams passed, which were Teams 8 and 10, consisting of Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Abirame under Yuhi Kurinai, and Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Chugi Akimichi under Sarutobi Asuma. A few more words were exchanged, then the meeting was called to a close with all but one masked Jounin exiting the Hokage Tower. He had some questions that he wanted answered, and he would do all he could to get the answers before visiting Naruto. With that, he approached the Sandaime with one thought in mind. Who really is Naruto Uzumaki? Answers in team training. Kakashi exited the Hokage Tower with almost the same amount of information that he already knew. After explaining in detail his test to his genin team, the Hokage just told him that if he wanted answers, then he'd have to talk to Naruto directly. With that in mind, he headed to the training ground that the Sandaime told him Naruto usually trained at, Training Ground 37. As he approached, he stood there for a while observing the blonde training before calling out to Naruto. Hearing his name, he turned around to greet his sensei, then asked, "Kakashi-sensei, what are you doing here?" Kakashi looked at him and said, "I'm here because of some things that you brought to my attention." Naruto raised his eyebrows as if in surprise and asked, "And what would that be?" "For one, how you acquired one of my sensei's special kunai. The Jounin asked, then spared a glance at a seemingly random tree. Would you mind continuing this conversation elsewhere? Sure, sensei. With that said, he grabbed Naruto's shoulder and they shined to Naruto's apartment. They arrived shortly, and a short series of seals later by Kakashi, a blue glow could be seen emanating all around the apartment before it faded away. The room's now secure, so we can talk privately, said Kakashi. Okay. Kakashi then motioned for him to continue. Well, the deal with the kunai, it belongs to me. Someone precious to me left it in hopes that I would someday find it. Kakashi was at a loss for words. The only thing he could think of was, could this be Sensei's son? After all, the Sandaime did say that he died minutes after childbirth. But they looked so much alike, and now the deal with the kunai. Really now? Who was that, if I may ask? A great man, loving husband and caring father, replied Naruto while saying the last part in a whisper. So you really are Sensei's son? Said Kakashi. He merely got a nod in response. To think that I was supposed to take care of you while you were growing up, only to be told that you died shortly after being born. I feel like strangling the Sandaime for this, said Kakashi, visibly angered. Naruto looked at him and could see the anger in his eyes, but beneath that he also saw the sorrow and regret that plagued him. He spoke up. It's all right, Sensei. Dad didn't want anyone to know of my real parents. He did it for my protection, and I respect him for it. Not even the council knows. Kakashi sighed and said, but still, if I had known, I would have been able to do more. No one should have to suffer what you went through, Naruto, no one. When he was done, he closed his eyes as if to suppress everything that he felt. To Naruto, it was heartwarming. One of the few people whom his dad had trusted and taught was his sensei, and he didn't hate him for having Hikari sealed inside of him. He felt the tears but bit them back. He knew that somewhere along the line he would find people who cared about him, but he never thought it would be this quick. To him, it felt great. In Kakashi's case, he was having a serious wake-up call. For years after his teammate Obito Uchiha and his sensei died, he would dwell in the past. He used to think that moving on with his life would dishonor their memory. Even when Rin had disappeared, he still acted the same. He would visit the hero's memorial for hours every day in memory of his comrades and friends, and would be late like Obito used to be. He had even taken the same excuses that his friend did, and used them. Despite all of this, he still performed effectively as a ninja. Maybe it was time to stop living in the past. He had long thought his sensei's son to be dead. Meeting him and speaking with him had cleared the veil that was over his eyes. It was time to do what his sensei had done for him, be there for his team and train them to be the best. He made a silent oath on his grave that no matter what, he would ensure his team was treated well. He had been thinking of putting most of his attention on Sasuke, and the council probing him to ditch his other students didn't help any. Now, he knew what he would do. It was time to get serious and once again show the shinobi world whom he was. His thoughts were then interrupted by Naruto. You know, Sensei, in the letter that Dad wrote to me, he specifically told me that if I had any trouble, I should seek you out. The stunt I pulled on you during our test was my own little test for you. A test of trust, you could say. Well, Naruto, what can I say? In the meantime, mind if I ask you some more questions? He nodded his head. Okay. I'd like to know what kind of training you've been undergoing for the last 2 weeks, because if your performance during the bell test was any indication, you've improved drastically from your days at the academy. And so, Naruto went into the details of his training with his sensei, from his stamina and endurance training to his practicing chakra control and different areas of study. He also informed him of his connection with Kyubi, or Hikari as he called her. At first Kakashi looked afraid and thought that somehow the fox might have influenced him, but then calmed down after being that the Sandaime knew and would have taken corrective measures if something was wrong. They then continued to talk about different things, and Naruto probed Kakashi for as much information as he could about his father. They also went through the training schedule that Naruto had been using and agreed to adjust it to fit the needs of their team as they would be using it from tomorrow. When they finally stopped conversing, it was almost 10 in the evening. Kakashi was about to leave but turned around and said, Naruto, tomorrow I'm going to be training Team 7 like a real team, so I suggest you rest up tonight, cause tomorrow's gonna be hell. With that, he dispelled the privacy jutsu that he had set up and waved goodbye before poofing out of the room. Naruto, being a bit tired from the day's activities, plopped down on his bed with a smile on his face. Getting up at 5 a.m. like he usually did, Naruto ran through his morning ritual and stepped outside for his morning warm-up. After completing it, he had breakfast and made his way to Training Ground 7, arriving a little bit early. On arrival, he saw Sakura and Sasuke already there and said a quick good morning to both. One only grunted a reply while the other replied "Ohei Naruto." Naruto quickly settled down against a tree and waited for their sensei. As soon as it was 7 a.m., a puff of smoke alerted them to someone entering their training area. The person looked like their sensei, but Sasuke and Sakura were blinking their eyes repeatedly as if asking the silent question, is he really here? He was dressed the same but was missing his orange literature and had a 24 ninjato strapped to his back with a black and silver sheath. He no longer held the lazy stance that was usually seen at a first glance but now looked ready for action at a moment's notice. Both were justified in their actions as he was late for their last 2 meetings by at least 2 hours. Even Naruto was surprised by the transformation, though the only indication was his raised eyebrows. Kakashi, seeing the effect that he had on the genin, quickly waived whatever doubt that they had and spoke up. "Okay team, as of yesterday we are officially Team 7. Usually, teams would go out to do D-rank missions for the first few months as genin. Our team, however, will not be doing this. For the first 2 months as a team, we will be training in the ninja arts to get your skill level up to at least high genin in all areas and higher if possible. That includes you too, Sakura," he said as he saw her wide-eyed. "As a result, we will be leaving the main part of the village and going to my estate where we will live for that time. We will be leaving for our training tomorrow at 8 a.m. so you will have sufficient time to inform your parents and friends of your absence. Any questions?" "Yes, sensei," said Sakura. "What do we have to bring along with us?" "Only clothing and any other training material that you possess," he replied. "Anything else?" "No? If that's the case, then we will begin our training for today." All 3 of them stared at him. They blinked and blinked again. Was their sensei crazy? After telling them that they would basically be secluded for the first 2 months of active duty, he wanted to train them? Even Naruto was surprised. In the end, they all stood up and Kakashi began instructing them on their exercises for the day, running laps around the training area. 3 hours later, a tired Sakura plopped down on the ground with no more strength while Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi kept up the exercise. An hour later, Kakashi called it to a stop and had all of them rest for half an hour. After their short break, they continued the exercise, but this time they practiced all of the hand seals in random order while running. 2 hours later, they all stopped and were treated to lunch by Kakashi. After their lunch break, he called them together and said, "Training for today is over." A sigh of relief was heard from Sakura. "However, in the weeks to come, you will be training harder than you ever thought possible, and I'll be pushing you past your limits." At this, Sakura deflated. However, both Naruto and Sasuke had a determined on their faces, and when she looked at them she gained a small bit of confidence. Even if it wasn't much, at least it was there. Kakashi looked at them once more, then said, "That's all for today. Meet me tomorrow at the West Gate at 8 a.m. with all of your supplies for a 2-month training trip. Bring along any technique scrolls that you have as well as anything else that will help your training. That's all for now." "Dismissed." "Hi," they chorused. With that, all 4 of them separated, each going their own way. Naruto had finished packing by mid-afternoon and was heading to the Ichiraku ramen stand to inform Ayam and Old Man Tucci that he would be gone for 2 months with his team. While packing his scrolls and clothing for training, he had come across the scroll with the kanji for 2. He had decided to read it later that day since he had long since mastered the chakra control exercises as well as a few other exercises. As he made his way to the ramen stand, he remembered the conversation he had with Hikari about their training trip, and he had received the shock of his life when he entered his mindscape. Standing behind the bars was not the 9-tailed kitsune that he was accustomed to, but a beautiful red-haired beauty with a dark green kimono and sandals that showed of her perfect feet. She also had a collar around her neck marked seal. He remembered the moment vividly. Plus flashback plus. Hi Hikari? Naruto asked, stunned beyond words that the entity that was inside of him would be beautiful. His jaw dropped to the ground when he heard her speak. "In the flesh, Naruto," she replied. Seeing his surprised face, she chuckled lightly and said, "No need to get a heart attack, Naruto, this is my human form." When he was finally able to gather his wits, he said, "Sugi, to think that the most destructive force on the planet is that beautiful." At that comment, Hikari just laughed and said, "Yeah, I'm amazing, I know, but that's not why I called you here. That cycloptic teacher of yours has finally pulled his act together. He will be training your body during the day, and every night during your sleep will be training your mind." "But I thought we were already doing that with the Shugi games," said Naruto. "That," laughed Hikari, "is just a taste of what you can actually do. When you exercise your mind to the fullest, you won't even believe the things you will be able to accomplish. Now be sure to pack all of the remaining scrolls from your father. You will find some time to deal with them." "Okay Hikari, anything else?" asked Naruto. Yeah, could you change the look of this place? With my kitsune form, it's all nice and dandy, but right now my kimono's beginning to get soggy and I hate wet clothing. So could you do it? Asked Hikari. If I can, besides, I think it's about time I got my head out of the gutter, or the gutter out of my head, he said with a light laugh. I'm guessing I just need to imagine the change, right? He got a nod for this, and after a brief moment of concentration, the mindscape began to change from a sewer to a lovely field with a 2-story house on the top of a slight incline. There was also a small lake and a few trees and even some birds. Hikari stood shocked at the scenery and a moment later asked, "Where did you see this?" That was a place that I discovered a long time ago while running from the villagers on the outskirts of the village on my birthday. Till this day, it's one of the most beautiful sights that I've ever seen. Hikari just stood and listened before a chair materialized behind her, which she sat on. "Arigato Naruto," she said. "No problem, Hikari, anytime." After that statement, he phased out of his mindscape. Plus flashback and plus. He smiled at the memory and blushed slightly, remembering how she looked. Taking in his surroundings, he noticed that he was near the ramen stand. On entering, he greeted Ayam and Chuchi warmly before ordering a couple bowls of ramen. After finishing his food, he called out to Ayam and told her about his training trip with his team. She smiled at him while saying that she was proud of him. He felt good to know that these two cared for him as one of their own. There had been many times in the past where the Ichiraku ramen stand had served as his safe haven from angry people and drunkards who had wanted to beat him up. Boy, was he thankful for the day they found him. He spent some time catching up with her, but sadly, she had to help her father, so they parted company with her agreeing to tell her father of his departure. After leaving the ramen shop, he debated whether to head to the Hokage Tower or Tenten's father's store. Checking his location, he decided to go to the weapons store where he met Tenten's father Hiroshi. He informed him of his trip and proceeded to ask if he knew where Tenten trained. He was informed that she was currently on a C-ranked mission outside of the village, so he left a note to her as well as one to Lee that she would take to him. He then went through the store to stock up on some of his supplies, paid for them, then left with a wave to Hiroshi. With his next destination as the Hokage Tower, he took to the rooftops and made good time getting there. On his way, he decided to prank the Hokage, so he entered through the window while shouting, "Duck!" The Hokage, who was giggling away with an orange book in hand, turned around and fell into a ready stance, or what would have looked like one had he not had his Ika Paradise book in one hand and a book marker in the other. Naruto, seeing the old Kage's reaction, fell onto the floor laughing his butt off. "You should have seen your face, Gigi, that was priceless. Ha ha ha. It's times like now I wish I carried a camera, ha ha ha," laughed Naruto. Sarutobi just shook his head while thinking, "I'm getting too old for this." Before it could escalate any further, he proceeded to speak to Naruto. "So what are you here for, Naruto? Apart from ruining my fun," he added mentally. "Well, Gigi, I just wanted to drop by to let you know of a training trip that Kakashi-sensei will be taking us on tomorrow, so I won't be around for a while. But I'm sure you knew that," he said. "Ah yes, the training trip that I approved for Team 7. I do know of it, but it's nice of you to drop by to let me know." "Yeah, Kakashi-sensei says that he wants us to be really strong at the end of our training," said the blonde boy. "Really?" said the Sandaime with a twinkle in his eye. "If that's the case, then I better start packing up my bags so that you can take my place." "You got that right, old man. I'll be sure to send you into retirement by the time I return, believe it," joked Naruto with a grin that rivaled a fox's on his face. The Sandaime smiled gently as he thought, "It's good to see that you are in high spirits, Naruto-kun. Now I know I did the right thing letting you keep that scroll from your father." "Of course, Naruto. Now if you don't have anything else to tell me, I've got the worst enemy of all Kages to beat." "What's that, Gigi?" asked Naruto. "Paperwork," he replied. Naruto's sweat dropped at that, and proceeded to say goodbye to the aged Hokage while telling him to inform Konohamaru of his trip. As soon as Naruto exited the Hokage Tower, he made his way towards his previous teacher's home. He had come to look at him as the big brother that he never had and loved spending time with him, especially if it involved ramen. When he got there, he was invited in by Irika and began to recount his activities for the past days to him, while Irika made a few sandwiches. When he finished retelling what happened, Irika looked at him and thought, "This is definitely not the same Naruto that was at the academy. Some things changed, but to some extent he's still the same. I think the best title would be the #1 most unpredictable ninja in Konoha." "Irika-sensei, are you listening?" asked Naruto. "You looked like you're lost in thought or something." "I am listening, Naruto. Now why don't And so they continued talking for some time before Irika informed Naruto that he should probably head home now, which he did. Sakura had been packing her clothes while she thought of what their sensei told them. When she had told her parents who her sensei was after their test, they smiled at her and said that he was one of the best ninjas in the village. Whatever she had thought. But seeing him earlier today, she began to wonder if she had done him justice. He said that he would teach them the best he could. Did she really want that? After all, the only reason she became a kunoichi was to compete with Ino and to get Sasuke's attention. Did she really want to continue? Would Sasuke always be there to save her, or would he even try to? These were some of the questions that were running through her mind at the moment. What can I do, she thought. I'm not even able to keep up with my teammates during simple exercises. At this, she hung her head low and her chest felt heavy. Am I really cut out to be a kunoichi? She thought dejectedly. Maybe I should just quit. She tried to get some rest, but she just couldn't fall asleep. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't. After a few hours, she got up and turned on her light, then searched for some random book on her bookshelf. Might as well try reading, she thought. The book that she ended up choosing was entitled Hokage's Past and Present, The Will of Fire. She became so engrossed in her reading that she hardly noticed the passage of time, and by the time she was done, it was already 2 a.m. Startled, she quickly put it away and made her way to her bed and instantly fell asleep with a gentle smile, her last coherent thought being, I finally found my reason for being a kunoichi. All 3 genin members of Team 7 were at the designated meeting point with 5 minutes to spare. At 8 o'clock exactly, a poof was heard signifying the arrival of their sensei. He greeted them, which they returned, and they headed out of the gates onto the outskirts of the village. A 10-minute walk later, they reached a clearing in the forest that looked oddly placed. Kakashi quickly went through a set of seals and placed his hands on the ground. Immediately, the clearing blurred out of existence, and in its place stood a large 3-story house with a big training area to the right and left. The rest was obscured from view, but they were sure it was as magnificent as the rest. Welcome to the Hataki residence, said Kakashi with his most cordial tone, though there was a hint of playfulness in his voice. The pleasure is all ours, Kakashi-sensei, replied Naruto, catching on. All 4 of them shared a quick laugh before heading through the gate and to the front door. When they eventually made it, Kakashi pulled out a key from his pocket and opened the door, revealing the inside to his students. After telling them to choose any of the rooms on the 2nd floor, they settled in and began unpacking their belongings. Kakashi decided to give them some free time, so he informed them that they would be going over their schedule at lunch, so they should get themselves familiar with the training ground around the house. Lunch was ready at 1 p.m., so all the members of Team 7 sat together around the table to eat, but not before saying thanks. While eating, Kakashi began to outline what their training schedule would be like for the first month. 5 a.m. Wake up. 5:30 morning exercises. 7 a.m. breakfast. 7:30 taijutsu, speed, stamina, strength, weapon training. 12 p.m. lunch. 1 p.m. chakra control. 3 p.m. ninjutsu/genjutsu theory, practice and application. 5 p.m. rest. 6 p.m. strategy. 8 p.m. dinner. 10 p.m. bedtime. Okay, everyone, said Kakashi, how does that sound to you? As we move along, we will be adjusting it to meet your needs. That's a lot of training, sensei, said Sakura, but I'm sure we'll make it. She finished with a smile. The 2 others nodded their heads, indicating their approval. Then Sasuke asked, what type of taijutsu styles will we be training in? He wanted to know because he wanted to master his family taijutsu style. If you have a particular style that you want to practice, you will be free to do so while I will be supervising each of you, he replied. Now Sakura, I know that you do not have any particular style, so I took the liberty of choosing one for you. The medic nin style of fighting will be the one you'll be using. Though I'm not very well versed in it, on our return to the village, you will be spending some time at the hospital to perfect it. She nodded at this, then Naruto spoke up. Sensei, I will be learning the hummingbird style, what do you recommend? While going through the second scroll that his father had left him, he found another scroll inside of it detailing that particular style, which was the one his dad used. Kakashi smiled at that. He had been expecting Naruto to choose that style, so it didn't come as a surprise. We'll first have to work on increasing your speed by increasing your weights, he said, then we'll work on your accuracy. Naruto smiled and nodded. When they finished eating, Kakashi stood up and said, Now's training time. Training continued as expected for the first month, doing exercises as well as furthering what they already knew. At the end of the month, Naruto's weights were now taking up to 30% of his total chakra capacity. Many days after training, he would be exhausted from all of the training that he put himself through. Even Kakashi thought that he was pushing his limits too far, so he asked him to take it easy. At the end of the first month, the end justified the means to him as all of his abilities skyrocketed. He had been training in the taijutsu style of his father, practicing different katas, and had already memorized all of them. Even if he memorized them, he still had a long way to go before mastering that particular style, though he was on the right path. He was sure that he could take on all of the genin in his graduating class without a problem in taijutsu, and probably some low chunin level ninjas with most of his weights on. He removed his weights. He could go toe-to-toe with Kakashi at 25% of his full power in a taijutsu spar for some time, but Kakashi's experience gave him the upper hand even though he too had weights on. In his ninjutsu training, he progressed at an alarming rate. Everything that Kakashi threw at them, he learned and attempted to master. They had begun with non-elemental ninjutsu such as the Shunshin for the first month. After playing around with it for a while, Naruto asked Kakashi if elemental versions of the Shunshin could be created. He responded in the positive, so he set to work on creating one in his spare time and ended up with 2 different versions that he taught his teacher, the Futon Shunshin and the Katon Shunshin. He had taught the Katon to his other teammates as well as the Shuriken Kage Bunshin and Kunai Kage Bunshin. He had also managed to learn the Bunshin Bakuha with the help of his sensei. Genjutsu was arguably his worst area. At present he lacked the control necessary to perform any genjutsu over C rank. He could also easily recognize and dispel them. One of the highlights of his genjutsu training was when his sensei asked him to create a Bunshin. It came out the same as his academy days. He quickly dispelled it and tried again, this time using as little chakra as he could but thinking of over 100 clones. The result was spectacular. Covering the entire clearing were Bunshins of Naruto. He had finally mastered his worst jutsu. He also had the mental training that Hikari had promised him. Sakura and Sasuke's training had been going on very well. They had each been practicing their respective taijutsu styles under Kakashi's watchful eye and became very proficient at them. They had also been training in the same ninjutsus as Naruto as well as genjutsu and weapon training. Of the two, Sakura had been the one to improve the most. Sasuke had been angry at her progress at the beginning because he wasn't improving at such a rate, but when Kakashi explained the reason for her growth, he cooled down. During their training, one would have thought that Kakashi would have been off reading his books, but he was actually with them completing the exercises, albeit with more restrictions. He also improved during their time together. Getting back in the shape he was during his ANBU years was his goal at the end of the 2 months. Overall, they had become a much better team. Sakura was their medic/genjutsu/support, while Sasuke covered taijutsu/genjutsu/ninjutsu. Naruto, on the other hand, was the powerhouse of the team, and because of his massive chakra capacity, which according to Kakashi was more than his ran ninjutsu/taijutsu. Not only were their fighting and teamwork skills better, but their interpersonal and social skills had improved, especially Sasuke's. No longer would he just sit and brood by himself, but would actually have conversations with his teammates. To Kakashi, however, their greatest achievement was helping Sakura out of her fangirl stage. It had been difficult, but in the end it was worth it. They were on their way to becoming one of the best genin teams in Konoha. As the second month of their training began, Kakashi called them all together to have a meeting. Okay guys, the first month of your training has been completed, and I have to say that I am very proud of the progress that you have made. You have far exceeded my expectations. As a result, we will be moving on to more advanced forms of training, said Kakashi with a smile on his face. He was in fact extremely proud of his students, and had been skeptical about isolating them from the village to train, but in the end decided to go for it. Now he was seeing the results, and was happy for them. Each of the genin standing before him had smiles on their faces. Yes, even the ever-smirking Sasuke Uchiha had a real smile. They had worked hard and were reaping the benefits. Now, the second month of training will focus on mastering what you already have at your disposal as well as adding some new stuff to what you know. Your schedules will also be changed a bit by reducing the amount of time spent on chakra control and increasing your nin, gen and taijutsu training. We will also be working on chakra sensing and suppression. Anything else that you would like to include? What about my Fuinjutsu training, Kakashi-sensei? Asked Naruto. That you will have to work on in your free time, Naruto. If you have any difficulties with it, you should seek me out. If that's all, we'll begin our training tomorrow. By the way, you have the day off. With that, he left them to their own devices for the rest of the day. The month passed quickly for Team 7. They made progress in all of their shinobi skills. Sakura and Sasuke had taken to wearing weights to improve their speed, while Naruto had continued to increase his weights and was now taking 40% of his steadily increasing chakra capacity. He had continued to modify the Shunshin no Jutsu, and finally completed them. He now had one for each element: Futon, Katon, Raiton, Doton and Suiton. His teammates couldn't believe how quickly he had taken to modifying the Shunshin no Jutsu. Kakashi thought to himself that there was only one more person who had managed to do what Naruto did, and incidentally it was his father. It seemed that Naruto really was out to surpass him. Kakashi had continued to teach his team different ninjutsus after finding out their elemental affinity. He vividly remembered giving them the test. Plus flashback plus. Guys, he began, I have decided to give each of you something because of your performances so far in training. In my hands are a few strips of paper. When chakra is added, it will determine what your elemental affinity is. Each of you will be given one of these. With that, he handed one to each of them and demonstrated by pouring chakra into the card. It instantly split in two, one side crinkled while the other caught fire. All three of the genin stared wide-eyed at what they saw. As you can see, I have two chakra affinities, lightning and fire. If you have lightning it will crinkle, fire it will burn, water it will get soggy, earth it will crumble, and wind it will split. Now you go, Sakura. Hi, she replied while pushing chakra into the paper. It instantly became soggy, indicating that she had an affinity for water. Sasuke went next. Half of his card crinkled and the other caught fire, the same as Kakashi. Naruto was next. He pushed chakra into the card and at the end Kakashi stood wide-eyed. He had never seen something like this happen before. It had to be some mistake. In Naruto's hand, the card split in 4 different pieces, one crinkled, one burned, one got soggy, and the last shredded into many different pieces. Amazing, said Naruto wide-eyed at what just happened. Kakashi on the other would have had to pick his jaw off the ground if not for his face mask. To ensure the accuracy, he asked Naruto to do the test again, and the same results were seen. I'm just that awesome, said Naruto while striking a pose effectively causing the others to laugh at his antics. Plus flashback and plus. They had been flabbergasted at this but had continued to train in new techniques that their sensei taught them. They all had at least 3 offensive and 3 defensive ninjutsus at their disposal. All in all, their training had been a huge success. Sasuke had even managed to activate his Sharingan during one of their 3-way spars. After a talk with Kakashi, he had vowed to never copy one of his comrades' techniques and had been learning his techniques without its aid. They were all very proud of their accomplishments, and currently on their way back to the village. Suddenly Naruto spoke up and said, How about we get there faster? You know, Naruto, said Sasuke, that's not such a bad idea. With that they nodded to each other, and Shun shined out of the area. Inside of the Hokage Tower, the Sarutobi was doing some paperwork and was cursing his successor-turned-predecessor for leaving him to do it. Suddenly he felt 4 chakra signatures approaching and turned from his work. A moment later, a wall of flame appeared in the room from about 7 feet from the ground. When it touched the floor, it reversed directions and went back up, extinguishing itself. There stood Team 7 armed and ready for combat. Team 7 reporting back from training, Hokage-sama. Team 7 reporting back from training, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat shocked, though it wasn't visible. He had been expecting the team for a few days now, but what he saw before him was definitely unexpected. Naruto and Kakashi looked almost the same. However, Sakura and Sasuke were the ones who changed the most visibly. Sasuke, instead of his white shorts and blue shirt, now had on a dark brown short pants and black shirt with the Uchiha symbol on the back. He also had on armored gloves that protected his entire hand. His facial expression had also changed. Where there once was an impassive look or severe glare, now stood a confident but not arrogant smirk. Sakura, on the other hand, was still decked in pink. Her top was a light brown with a pink jacket over it. Her shorts were dark green in color, and she also had fingerless gloves similar to the ones Naruto used. All in all, Team 7 looked ready to take on the world. Sarutobi finally spoke up. I take it that your training trip has been a success? Yes, Hokage-sama, replied Kakashi. All right, he replied. How soon will you be ready to take on missions with your team, Kakashi? Asked the Hokage. After looking at his students for a moment, he responded. By tomorrow, sir. If that's the case, then all of you but Kakashi are dismissed. The genin promptly bowed and exited the tower after being told by their sensei that they would be meeting at Training Ground 7 at 7 a.m. The Hokage then focused his attention on Kakashi and asked, Is there anything that you would like to add as they are away, Kakashi? Hi, Hokage-sama, he replied. The Hokage nodded and Kakashi continued. Sir, the training the Team 7 underwent was a success, and I have to say that the results surprised even me. At their current power level, all of them can take on low Chunin level ninja alone and win. Sasuke and Naruto can take on a mid-level Chunin alone and win. Sakura possibly could. The two boys probably could take on high-level Chunin. Possibly they could take on low Jounin level ninja, but would have to go all out against both levels of shinobi, and end it quickly due to lack of experience, especially against a low-level Jounin. It seems that they are strong individually, but what of their capabilities as a team? Asked the Hokage. At that question, Kakashi smiled at the Hokage, then said, in terms of teamwork, they are more efficient than many teams of Chunin that I have seen in action. I gave them the bell test again at the end of the training, and they were able to retrieve one of the bells from me while I wasn't using my Sharingan eye. All three of them are very capable leaders and brilliant strategists. Though they are not on par with Inara, they're very good in their own right. Naruto has displayed the uncanny ability to develop both complex and simple plans on the fly as well as in advance that the team then executes perfectly. Both Sakura and Sasuke have developed that aspect as well. All in all, they would keep many a Jounin on their toes for some time. The Hokage nodded and sat in deep thought. It seems that Team 7 may become another of the great teams Konoha has produced. If they continue at this pace, they may very well make Jounin within the first 3 years of their lives as shinobi. Well done, Kakashi, said the Hokage. Now on to other business. Do you think that the customary D-rank missions given to new genin will be necessary for Team 7? No, Hokage-sama, they are not necessary. However, it would be good for the team if the first few weeks of missions consist of D ranks only. Afterwards we will move on to something more challenging, replied the copy-nin. I'll trust your judgment on this, Kakashi. You trained them well. If that's all, you're dismissed. Kakashi quickly bowed before shining away. To put it simply, Naruto was bored. He had already gone home, visited all of his friends and spent some time eating ramen, and now he had nothing to do. He sat down on a bench while thinking of what to do. Oi, Hikari-chan, do you have anything in mind that I could do? I'm bored here. How about we prank someone? It's been a while since you did a prank on somebody. How about that pervert Ebisu? After all, he deserves a prank and he's a pervert, and I hate perverts. She screamed. You know, that's not a bad idea, Hikari-chan, and I think I know just what to do. Finally set with a goal in mind, Naruto headed to Konohamaru's home to find his perverted tutor. Naruto found him while he was instructing Konohamaru on the proper way to use a shuriken. That's not the way, honorable grandson. You have to let it fly with just a flick of the wrist like this. See? He said while demonstrating to Konohamaru. Konohamaru nodded and was about to try it out before he noticed Naruto in the clearing waving to him, and he shouted. Naruto and I-chan, you're back. Yeah, Konohamaru, I am. So what's the closet pervert been teaching you? Asked Naruto. He's just been showing me some useless stuff like how to throw a shuriken. Actually, Konohamaru, that is actually one of the basic skills that all ninjas need to have. If you can't throw a shuriken properly, then you can't become a ninja. At this, Konohamaru gasped, while Ebisu smirked. Not so useless now, is it? Said Ebisu. No, it's not. But when you keep me here for 4 hours straight without a break, you really think I'll learn that easily? Bit back Konohamaru. Really now? Said Naruto, a bit surprised that Ebisu would keep him for that long. If that's the case, then how about a break? And in the meantime we spar. Yeah, please, Ebisu-sensei, begged Konohamaru. Sure, I just hope you don't go home crying when you lose, taunted Ebisu. Sure, replied Naruto. With that they took their positions and readied themselves while Konohamaru was on the side looking at them. Everything goes except maiming and killing, all right? Said Ebisu. Naruto nodded his agreement, then said, First blood wins, and they began. Ebisu stood while motioning Naruto to make his move. Are you sure you want that? He asked. Well, you better get ready, he said as he made a familiar cross-shaped seal and cried out Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A few puffs of smoke later, 25 Narutos filled the area and surrounded the Jounin. He pushed his shades higher than they already were and said, I'm a Jounin. I won't be beaten by such silly clones. All of Teehee Naruto smirked, and then shouted henge. A moment later, over 25 nude females could be seen of different figure and color. They suddenly walked over to Ebisu while swaying their hips provocatively, and said, Ebisu-sama, will you play with us? Will you? While they rubbed their bodies against him, some of the others moaned passionately. Ebisu stared for the second time at this jutsu. He tried to maintain his self-control and turned around, only to be greeted with some of them in some questionable positions. He tried to stop the blood flow, but he couldn't. His last thought before flying back with a nosebleed was, can women really bend that way? Naruto grinned at his work and then smiled lightly, then said Phase 1 complete. He then bent down next to Konohamaru and whispered something in his ear while Konohamaru nodded his head in agreement, then asked, "You got all of that, Konohamaru?" "Hi, Anai-san." "Okay, then let's get to work." Half an hour later, the two boys could be seen grinning from ear to ear. They had completed their prank, had pictures to prove it, and were very proud of their accomplishments. Ebisu was now hanging upside down and tied to one of the poles in the center of town. He was stripped to only his boxers, which had pictures of teddy bears on them. Quite a hilarious spectacle. No one knew how Naruto had done it, but he had managed to get past everyone without them noticing and complete his prank. It seemed that if he didn't want to be noticed, he wouldn't be. After admiring their work for a few more minutes, the two headed home. One other person was not too happy with that particular prank. For that matter, she was downright furious when Naruto used harem jutsu. It had, according to her, been a disgrace to any self-respecting female, and she wished he never used that technique again, unless absolutely necessary. Yes, Hikari was royally pissed, and she was starting to give him a monster of a headache as punishment. Sasuke and Sakura arrived at the appointed training ground at almost the same time. After exchanging pleasantries, they began a slight warm-up by running around the training area together. A few minutes later, Naruto joined them and fell in, but not before saying good morning. At exactly 7 a.m., Kakashi arrived into the area and greeted his team. "Oh hey, Minasan. It's good to see that you are all in high spirits this morning." They all gathered near him to find out their duties for the day. "Today," he began, "we will be doing as many missions as we can. As I have told you before, we will be beginning with the rank missions and continue on from there. Are you ready?" "Hi," they replied in unison. With that, they headed to the Hokage Tower to get their missions for the day. As they entered the Hokage Tower, Team 8 was currently exiting the tower while Kiba was silently complaining about evil felines. Team stood in front of the Hokage, then Kakashi spoke up. "Good morning, Hokage-sama. We're here for the day's missions." "Alright, Kakashi, we've got a few D ranks. How many do you think your team can handle?" asked the aged Hokage. "I think we'll limit ourselves to 3 missions for today, Hokage-sama. Is that alright?" he asked his team. They all nodded in sync. "If that's all, then here you go," said the Hokage while handing Kakashi 5 scrolls which contained their missions for the day. With that, Team 7 exited the tower and headed to their first destination, a small house belonging to an old woman. When they arrived, they were given the rest of the details by their sensei. They were supposed to paint her house for her, then move on to their next mission. The next 5 hours were spent completing the missions that they had collected from the Hokage earlier that day. At the end of the time, none of the 3 genin showed any signs of exhaustion, something that Kakashi was proud of as he monitored them as they made their way to the Hokage Tower. Their lack of physical exhaustion, however, may have been due to the fact that they didn't have to retrieve Tora, the Fire Lord wife's cat. He quivered just thinking of that dreaded mission. As they continued on their way to the tower, Kakashi spoke up. "Okay guys, right now I'm going to be giving the mission report to the Hokage. I want each of you to listen closely as I report to him, because from next week, you will each be given a chance to take control of the mission and will be required to give the mission report at the end. Think you're up to it?" he asked while I smiling at them. "Whatever you throw at us," began Sakura. "We'll complete," continued Sasuke. "Believe it," finished Naruto. Although Kakashi was accustomed to his team, it still sometimes freaked him out the way they thought and acted as one sometimes. He simply smiled at them, then they continued to the Hokage Tower where Kakashi proceeded to give the mission report. They then made their way to a restaurant where they had lunch and proceeded to Training Ground 7 about an hour later. "Today," began their sensei, "we will be working on some more of our team maneuvers and attacks. This will help you greatly aid you while in battle, so it would be good if we learn these." "Hi, sensei," they replied together. "Okay. Sasuke, I want you to." That's how their day continued for the first 3 weeks of missions. They would meet up at 7 in the morning, do a couple of missions, then have lunch, then training in the afternoon. Naruto had continued training regularly with Hikari in his free time, and while asleep. His already high tactical and analytic ability continued to increase steadily. He had also stopped increasing his weights and focused on increasing his speed while wearing them, and also getting accustomed to combat without them by practicing with Rock Lee, the only other genin who could match or surpass his speed that he knew of. Lee's sensei had once seen them sparring with their weights off and had proceeded to yell about the flames of youth and challenging his eternal rival to fan his youthful flames. Naruto had lost concentration during Guy's rant and had taken a few mean punches and kicks from Lee, thus costing him to lose the spar. The other members had continued training by themselves as well. After seeing the results of their 2-month training trip with Kakashi, they had pledged to better themselves. Today would be the start of the 4th week that Team 7 started taking missions, and though they would not express their views audibly, they had all agreed that they were a bit tired of the so-called D-rank missions that they did on a daily basis. Though they had expected this after being briefed by their sensei, they were still a bit peeved from doing them. As the team entered the Hokage's office, Sakura crossed her fingers in hope of getting a better mission when Sarutobi spoke up. "Ah, Team 7. Good to see you again. You are here for your mission, I presume?" Kakashi nodded in response and was about to speak, but the Hokage beat him to it. We've got babysitting a couple of kids, tending to the Yamanaka's flower garden, feeding the Nara's deers and… Hokage-sama, if I may? Asked Kakashi. The Hokage nodded for him to continue, so he did. Sir, I have been monitoring the progress of my team over the last few weeks, and I know that as they are now, they are able to handle AC rank missions, so if there are any available, would you be so kind as to pass it on to us? Finished Kakashi. Said Sarutobi as he sat deep in thought. I was wondering when you were going to request something higher, but I always thought that Sakura or Naruto would be the first to crack. I guess their training has been more than just preparing them physically. Okay, Kakashi, I think we have one C rank that will suit your needs, he said while tossing a scroll towards him. As he said this, all the members of Team 7 visible relaxed, and Naruto thought no more chasing that cat. The details of the mission are in there, he said. Thank you, Hokage-sama, said Kakashi. Okay guys, meet me at the West Gate in 30 minutes and pack supplies for a week-long mission. Hi, they replied in unison before shining away. 30 minutes later, all of the team members and their sensei stood at the West Gate waiting for their mission briefing. Okay, we are to head to a town on the border of Hai no Kuni to investigate and eliminate a group of bandits that has been giving the townspeople some trouble. It should take us about 7 hours to get there. Once in the town, we will have to speak to the mayor, as he will be able to provide more details. Any questions? Hi, said Naruto, are we expected to encounter any shinobi on the way or during our mission? Not necessarily, Naruto. If we do, they will most likely low C rank needs. Any more questions? Okay then, let's move out. I'll take point with Sakura behind me, followed by Sasuke, and Naruto will stay back. Let's head out. And so they took to the trees to complete their first C rank mission. A few hours later, they reached the town that they were heading to, Meuma. As they made their way to the mayor's office, the genin looked around the city, taking in the different sights and sounds. A few minutes and a lot of walking later, Kakashi led them into the mayor's office, who met with them immediately. Good evening, sir. We are the ninja that you requested from Konoha to aid in the elimination of the bandits that have been plaguing your town, said Kakashi after bowing towards him. Hi, it's good to see that Konoha has responded so quickly. My name is Santana Magaroshi, by the way, said the mayor. As your leader may have informed you, we are having a bandit problem which began a little over a week ago. From the looks of it, they move in small groups of 3 to scout, then strike with bigger forces. Some of the places that they have struck include some of our main stores, a school and one jeweler's store. As long as the items have value, they steal them, and it's becoming quite a nuisance to us. Do you have a map of the town available by any chance? Asked Kakashi. The mayor nodded and rummaged through a drawer near him and presented it to Kakashi. Together, the two marked the places that had been struck by the bandits. Kakashi then folded the map and handed it to one of the genin. He turned to the mayor again and asked, Magaroshi-san, have accommodations been prepared for us? Hi, he replied, my secretary will take you to a guest house that was prepared for you. Now if you would be so kind, I have an appointment in a few minutes. With a wave of his hand, he dismissed them. As they exited the room, a young woman approached them and led them to the guest house, which was a few blocks away. After showing them the necessary areas, she left to continue her duties. After settling in, Team 7 sat around the table and prepared to set out a plan. Alright, Sasuke, would you hand me that map that I gave you earlier? Thanks. Okay, from what I've seen so far, they seem to be moving from left to right, hitting high-end stores and the like that they come across. Now, these are the areas that have been hit, he said while pointing to the areas that were marked on the map. Sakura, from the information that we have here, where do you think they will be striking next? He asked. Well, Sensei, if they continue on their current pattern, they will strike one of the jeweler's stores 3 miles southeast of our current position. If we move quickly enough, we may be able to wrap up this mission in a few days because they are too sloppy and careless. You're right, Sakura, that's the way it looks. Naruto, what's your recommended course of action? A stakeout, we monitor them for some time for any activity in the expected areas. If what Magoroshi-san said is anything to go by, they will come to check out the place before attacking it in a group of 3. From there, we will be able to follow them and deal with them as is required," said Naruto. "Good reasoning, Naruto. Alright, I hope you were listening closely, Sasuke, cause you will be leading this mission." Sasuke sat straight after hearing this. True, their sensei had let them lead D-rank missions for 2 weeks, but this was on a whole different level. He was a bit apprehensive, but affirmative nods from his teammates washed away any doubt he had. "So Taicho," said Naruto, "what will our plan be?" Sakura and Kakashi tried hard not to laugh, but in the end it was all in vain because when they turned around to face Sasuke, the look on his face was too much for them to hold it in any longer. Even Naruto had trouble maintaining his serious visage. Naruto said, "Sasuke, if you call me that again, I'll ensure it's the last thing you say." "Sure thing, Taicho," replied Naruto before bursting into full-blown laughter, which Sasuke later joined in. After calming themselves down for a bit, they put a plan together that they would work with. The same night, they would go to the general area where they expected the bandits to strike next. If nothing was found out, they would keep looking until they found one of them and follow them back to their hideout, wherever it may be. From there they would proceed to eliminate the threat to the town by disabling their opponents. After a bit of deliberation, they decided to take a short rest before heading out. An hour later, they were ready to begin, so they headed to the expected area. Upon arrival, each of them changed their appearance by using henge. Sasuke then instructed Naruto to do the same for some of his clone, and have them henged as civilians. Naruto ordered them to dispel when they found some valuable information, then had them spread out in different areas. A lot of time passed as the shinobi maintained watch. They had been at it from evening to the early hours of the morning and were ready to head home to freshen up. Sasuke signaled everyone and they met up on one of the rooftops. They decided to head home and have Naruto's clones take care of the surveillance for the time being. They followed the same routine the next day with the same results. On the third night of their stakeout, one of Naruto's bunshins dispelled, giving him the knowledge that it acquired during its lifetime. It had seen a group of 3 men walking together while speaking in hushed tones. If he had been any ordinary person, he would not have been able to make out what they were saying. However, thanks to his enhanced senses from Hikari, he could hear them. "It seems like the boss wants us to check out the next place on his hit list," the first man said. "Man number 2, where is it, Ziggy?" the other one replied. "It's 2 blocks away, and you know you shouldn't call me by my name, Baka," said the man now identified as Ziggy. "Sorry, Ziggy," apologized the second man. "Shut up, idiot," hissed Ziggy. "Now let's get going because the boss wants to strike tomorrow." "Hi," the other 2 replied as they headed in the direction of their next target. When Naruto went through the information, he signaled his teammates, and they gathered together for a brief meeting. After relaying what he learned to them, Sasuke took control of the situation. "Okay guys, here's what we're going to do. Naruto, inform one of your bunshins to take the place of the one that dispelled." "Already done." "Good, now, the rest of us will monitor them from inside and outside the store. Kakashi-sensei, you will be on the outside along with Naruto. Sakura, you and I will be on the inside. When they exit, we will follow them from a safe distance and find out where they are situated. Depending on their numbers, we will strike or fall back. Everyone clear?" "Hi," the 3 others replied. "Good, then let's move out." As quickly as they appeared, they disappeared, each tending to their own delegated task. An hour and a half later, the 4 shinobi were following the bandits to their hideout in groups of 2, Sakura with Sasuke and Naruto with Kakashi. The bandits walked on for a long while before turning off the road and heading into the forest. They made their way through the forest and walked for about a mile before they reached a clearing with one large tent and a few smaller ones surrounding it. Sasuke called for a stop, so they stopped and met to plot their course of action. "We need an estimate of the number of people in the camp. Naruto, would you be as kind as to henge a bunshin into something that flies and get the information for us?" "Thanks." Naruto complied and set the bunshin to its task. At this, Kakashi smiled. It seemed that his students were ready to take orders from each other without question, something that would no doubt be helpful. "While Naruto's bunshin is scouting, we're going to wait on the intel he receives. When he does, we will either move in or retreat." They then waited in silence for a few minutes before Naruto spoke up in a cold, monotonous voice. "There are currently 43 persons present. The leader is a nuke from the mist and doesn't seem to have any special abilities. His chakra level is high genin, so he might be a little skilled, nothing we can't take care of unless he was suppressing his chakra to a level where I couldn't detect it." "How do we progress, Sasuke?" asked Kakashi. "Here's the plan. We attack now. Naruto will have 2 of his exploding clones advance into the camp and get as close as possible to the center of the main area. Have them henge into some scantily clad woman or something to get the guy's attention. In the meantime, the 4 of us will each cover different areas to cut off any exit points. When the clones are in position, they will signal us by exploding. This will send the camp into panic and they will try to flee. That's where we come in. We will disable all opponents who try to escape. Refrain from killing any of them if possible, but if you must, do it as quick as possible. The leader is to be taken alive. Remember, we do this as quickly as possible. When we're done, we retrieve all valuables in the camp. Anything to add, Kakashi-sensei? Nothing at all, Sasuke. Alright, you heard the man, let's move out. They quickly disappeared and went about doing what they were told to do. Naruto headed to the south end of the camp after making the bunshins and having them distract the bandits. As the clones headed to the center of the camp, one of the men standing guard said, "Well, hello beautiful, what are you doing all the way out here?" "Well, you see, me and my friend Naruto got lost and ended up here. Would you mind helping us to find our way home?" "Sure thing, honey, let's just go see the boss first so he can clear everything." With that, he extended his hand to her, which she took and motioned her friend to follow suit. As they walked through the area, many of the others stopped what they were doing to ogle the 2 women passing by. A few even tried to grope them. When they entered the main tent, the area was so crowded that they had to force their way through. When the boss laid eyes on them, he instantly stood up and walked over to them. "What do we have here? 2 pretty ladies lost in the woods. You shouldn't wander too far away from home, you know, someone might just find you and use you for their own benefit." He finished with a lecherous grin. After reciting their story to him, he smiled and said, "Boys, it seemed like we get to have some fun today." They all erupted in laughter and started to converge on the 2 women. As soon as they were cornered, they smirked and said 2 words. "Bunshin Bakuhal." The bandits didn't know what hit them. One second they were about to ravage the 2 women, the next they were flying through the air without any coherent thoughts. At the different points, the 4 members of Team 7 moved into action. One by one they took down the remaining bandits. In 10 minutes they had completed their primary objective and had disabled all of the bandits, then tied them up. The leader was being tied up by Kakashi with special chakra-absorbing rope that was sure to hold him. The remaining members of the team went through the different tents searching for any valuables that could be returned and found most of them intact. After putting them together, Naruto sealed them into a sealing scroll that he had. They then made their way to their sensei and rounded the bandits together. After securing the leader, they made their way towards the town. The mayor was quite happy when the shinobi came to his home late in the evening with the leader of the bandits in tow. He extended his sincere thanks to them and told them that they could remain at the guest house for the remainder of the week, but they refused, saying that they needed to get back as soon as possible. The following day, Team 7 said their goodbyes to the mayor and continued on their way home. In a couple of hours, they were at the front gates and entered without any problems. They then made their way to the Hokage Tower to deliver the mission report. Team 7 returning from their C-rank mission, Hokage-sama, said Sasuke. Saratobi nodded and motioned for him to continue. The town of Meouma is now cleared of the bandits. When we arrived, we were briefed by the mayor, who provided lodging for us. In a few days, the threat was eliminated and the leader, who was a Nuke from Mist, was apprehended as well as all of his accomplices. Very good. Well done, Team 7. Your payment will be made available to you through your bank accounts. I expect a written report on my desk in 24 hours. If that is all, you're dismissed. All 4 of them bowed and exited the Hokage Tower. How about some food, guys, my treat? Ramen! Shouted Naruto as he rushed up to the Ichiraku ramen stand, leaving the others coughing from the cloud of dust that he left. Even if he had changed, he still had some of the qualities that they all knew and loved. It was what made him Naruto. Over the course of the next month, Team 7 continued doing missions and training. Since their last C-rank mission, they had done 3 others, all inside of the village. In the morning, they would do missions and in the afternoon train their butts off. As they headed to the Hokage Tower, all 3 of the genin wondered if they would be getting another C-rank mission anytime soon. They had been working hard over the past few months and felt that they were ready for something more challenging. When they entered the Hokage's office, Kakashi took to the front. Hokage-sama, we are here for our mission. Hi. Hey Iruka-sensei, how's it been? Asked Naruto as he saw his past academy teacher assisting the Hokage in handing out missions. Oh, hey Naruto. It's been good. I hope you haven't been giving Kakashi-san too much trouble? He asked hopefully. Nah, I've been behaving myself, he responded. That's good to know. With that, they ended the conversation as Iruka was told by the Sandame to look for a mission for the team. Let's see, we have finding the Fire Lord wife's cat, trimming some hedges, painting a fence, and cleaning the park. Which would you like? He asked, only to see the questioning gaze that Kakashi gave him when he lifted his head. I don't think I made myself clear. I would like AC rank mission for my team. What? Exploded Iruka, that's preposterous. Don't you know that your team consists of only genin, and they are only allowed to do D rank missions? The Sandame only chuckled when he heard Iruka's outburst. Don't worry, Iruka. Team 7 is perfectly capable of handling AC rank mission. They have proven this in the past, and I'm sure they won't disappoint you. But Hokage-sama. He was cut off by Naruto. Iruka-sensei, we can handle it, no problem. Yes, sensei, continued Sakura, we've already completed 4 C rank missions. And we have yet to fail any of them, said Sasuke. And they're not gonna start now, finished Kakashi. Have a little faith in them, Iruka, said the Sandame, they'll surprise you. They sure did surprise me, he thought. Okay, fine, he said with a resigned sigh, just be careful, okay? They all nodded. With that, he took a scroll from the pile and looked it over while nodding. Here you go, he said. Kakashi opened the scroll and quickly read the contents, then said that they accepted. Nodding to him, the Sandame called out. Please fetch Mr. Tazuna. Please fetch Mr. Tazuna. All the genin members of Team 7 waited patiently as their client was fetched. They had never been on a bodyguard mission before now, so they were all excited, though it didn't show. A few moments later, a dark gray-haired man who smelled of sake entered the room while staggering. He took some time to steady himself before facing Team 7. You can't be serious. These are the brats that will be guarding me? They just look like a bunch of super babies to me, said Tazuna. The genin bristled at the comment but stood still. The Sandame's eyebrow rose at the display. He had at least expected Naruto to respond violently to the old man's comments. He was about to speak, but Naruto beat him to it. Sir, I would appreciate it if you didn't disrespect our team. We don't take kindly to such mannerisms. He finished as calmly as possible, surprising the Sandame with the amount of restraint he showed. True, they had all undergone intense training, but to go from a loud, obnoxious, ramen-loving idiot to a calm, collected, and competent shinobi who still loved ramen in such a short time was phenomenal. Iruka was also having similar thoughts. Whatever, Gaki, I'm the super bridge builder Tazuna, and I expect super protection from you brats as I build my bridge, said Tazuna. Kakashi looked at Naruto, then handed him the scroll that the Sandame gave him earlier with the details of the mission. Naruto quickly read it and committed everything to memory, then assumed command. Okay, we will be heading to the Land of Waves to escort and protect the bridge builder here until the completion of his bridge. We are to expect bandits and small-time thugs on the way. No shinobi presence is expected, however, be ready. We leave in 30 minutes at the main gate, so get ready and pack for a month-long journey. Hi, the 3 other members of the team replied in unison. Saluting the Hokage, they all left via Shunshin, but not before informing Tazuna where the main gate was. The Hokage and Iruka were still shocked from Naruto's earlier display, and even more so now. How did Kakashi do it, they both thought. 30 minutes later, 3 of the members of Team 7 were at the main gate waiting on Tazuna and their third member, as they seemed to be running late. A few moments later, 2 figures were seen walking towards them. When Naruto and Tazuna arrived, Naruto quickly took command. It will take us approximately 3 days to get to Waves, so if we want to make good time, let's head out. Kakashi-sensei, you will take point while Sakura and Sasuke flank him on either side. I'll take rear guard. Everyone ready? Then let's head out, he commanded. The group traveled for the first day and a half in relative ease. There were no disturbances on their journey. After getting ready to head out on the 3rd day, they assumed their positions and continued their journey. After walking for a few miles, Kakashi spotted a puddle on the edge of the road. Seems like we have trouble. Should be nothing that the guys can handle, so I'll leave it to them, thought Kakashi. When he turned around, he noticed that all of his students seemed to have noticed that the puddle wasn't really that but a poorly placed genjutsu. Quickly nodding to them, he and Naruto changed positions, with Naruto up front and him taking the rear guard. They passed the puddle without incident, but about 20 feet away from it, commotion suddenly broke out and caused them to halt. All of them, with the exception of Kakashi, turned around armed, expecting an attack. What they saw shocked them. Their sensei was trapped by a long, spiked chain that was held by 2 nuke from the mist. One down, the one on the left said in a raspy voice as they proceeded to rip Kakashi to shreds. Blood spluttered every which way as the chain freed itself from Kakashi's remains. 2-4 to go, said the other member of the Mist Duo in an equally raspy voice. Tazuna was on the edge of a panic attack and looked at the genin with a scared face as if pleading with them to do something. Sensing his panic and fear, Naruto spoke up. Tazuna-san, we will protect you, but at the end of this we expect the entire truth. He said in a cold, monotone voice that the rest of the team had dubbed his mission persona. His piercing blue eyes denoting to lessen Tazuna's fears as they seemed to gaze into the depths of his very soul. Tazuna, although scared, looked confused and thought that the brat was crazy. Their sensei had just been killed by those guys and he was talking about protecting him. He was broken from his thoughts by Naruto speaking. Sakura, guard Tazuna, Sasuke and I will handle these guys. Sasuke, let's go. In a blur the two of them disappeared from view and appeared near the two attackers. Now tell me, what are the demon brothers doing attacking our team? Asked Naruto in the same monotone voice. The two attackers were amazed that mere genin knew who they were. The widening of their eyes was evidence enough of it. Neither of the brothers, Gozu or Meizu, gave any response to the blonde-haired shinobi.